Before we get started today, I wanted to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by a very special screening coming up in the city of Los Angeles. July 10th, I am presenting the Los Angeles premiere of the new film by Moturn Media, Charles Roxburgh and Matt Farley's Evil Puddle. I will be introducing the film at the Lumiere Cinema in Beverly Hills, one night only, Thursday, July 10th, and I haven't even said the best part. Matt Farley himself is flying to Los Angeles for this screening. We are going to be doing a Q&A live pod type situation there. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to record it, so if you live in Los Angeles, there is only one way to hear this conversation live in person. But more important than that, I mean, it's fucking Matt Farley's new movie, and you're going to be in his presence. So buy a ticket. And even if you don't live in LA, throw me $10. It's the next edition of Extended Clip Presents, and tickets are on sale now, July 10th. See you there. All right, cool.
I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Average fat cats with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with
Extended Clip.
Welcome to Extended Clip. It is episode 419, and I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm JT White.
And today we are coming at you with a very special listisode. Is that how you would say it? Listcast?
Yeah, it's a BuzzFeed-inspired episode.
We've played the IndieWire BuzzFeed card before. You know, it's
Early
a very little
on.
fanfare.
Well, BuzzFeed's, they've kind of...
They're like the news now.
Yeah, I guess so. They used to be, I feel like, a big part of popular culture, but...
Yeah, this is Extended Clip and Pop Crave Rap News present best of the 2020s so far.
Block Party.
Yeah,
Watch Mojo?
like that.
Can we get Watch
Block
Mojo
Party.
in on this?
Block Party,
Sure, we
Watch
need all
Mojo.
the 2010s websites to come in. Because, you know, a sad thing I just realized that people probably realized years ago, and I'm just realizing now. But, you know, there's no more websites. It's all just like JT said, like Pop Crave. That's why there's no... Everyone's just like, well, we'll just make an account for it. So we're really brave in doing what we do and continuing the tradition of those websites.
In having a website? We don't have a website.
Well, no, the lists. We're still doing the lists. We were inspired by them, by their list making. So that's why we're making a list here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know how much I love that intro, but in the spirit of the rough and rowdy 2020s, I think we're just going to get started. And as JT alluded to, talking about the best films of the 2020s so far, you know, I wrote about this on my blog like 6 months ago, my own like expanded list at the time, which, you know, my ballot for this, of course, was a little different because I formatted it a little different and have seen more stuff since then and kind of changed opinions on stuff. But anyway, when I was doing that writing exercise, I realized that, you know, I was right all along that Hollywood is dying and is the worst it's ever been in terms of mainstream film. And all we really have are these dying auteurs from older generations and the great younger filmmakers who are being pushed further and further out into the fringes. And that is at least as far as American filmmaking goes. You know, there are different types of ways to fund art movies in Europe, if you will. But still, I'm not as well versed on that kind of thing as I am with the American cinema. Call me Andrew Saris, if you will. But anyway, so what we did was solicit ballots from 33, I believe, friends of the show. They range from critics to filmmakers to just our buddies, fellow podcasters and bloggers, you know. And we also, obviously, Malcolm, JT, you guys gave me your ballots, and I weighted our ballots a little heavier than our friends, so that, like, you know, the list could represent us, but, you know, also use our friends as the populace. It's kind of like a representative democracy.
Yeah, I guess.
Is it kind of like that?
Or maybe like Parliament or something like that?
I don't think it's like Parliament.
Parliament's a cool name, though.
One time I was on a date with a girl and I told her I smoked Parliaments, and she said, "That's gay." And I was like, well, I'm definitely not going out with her again. This was back when I smoked Parliaments, which is, when I was 22 probably.
You're like, that hurt. I can't come back from that.
I can't date that girl or smoke Parliaments.
That's I don't understand. I just don't get it. Like, why are Parliaments gay? They're, if anything, like, I feel like she could clown on you for them being a cheap cigarette, but
cheap.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, it's not like they're like Virginia Slims, right? They're pretty
JT's doing tropes.
Yeah.
Well.
Anyway.
I mean, the facts are the facts. The price point is the price point.
So when I tallied the results of this list, I came to a similar conclusion, this time around. A lot of the stuff that I wrote about is on this list, and a lot of stuff that, our friends liked more than I did or saw and I hadn't seen. And the list making process put me on to some really cool stuff that has been, on my hard drive now and ready for me to watch after conducting this exercise. But we are going to count down the list, and we're going to start at number 30. But wait, we have a trade to announce. We have a tie.
Oh, okay.
29 and 30 are tied. I know I sent you guys the list. It doesn't account for ties because I ordered it like a Google Doc list where I was hitting enter,
Okay.
But I didn't give you guys the version with like the point totals.
The official. Only you have the official list.
So here's the thing. Yeah, as I described earlier,
This is just like Eddie rigging the draft, how he's exactly only he knows the sophisticated number.
I'm putting my finger up. Actually, I am being extremely transparent now by also reading off point totals when asked. The point totals are derived from a system I invented myself and patented. I'm still waiting on the patent on this system of list making. But regardless, for all of the contributors, it was, of course, first place 10 points, second place 9 points, and so on until you get to 11th, and they were allowed to do optional runners up from 11 to 30, and those are all worth 3/4 of a point. And then for our 3 ballots, double those amounts. So tied at 29th technically with 18 1/4 points are Avatar: The Way of Water by James Cameron and The French Dispatch by Wes Anderson.
That's quite a tie there.
Quite a tie, and quite a representation of what I was saying. I mean, these guys were making great movies 25 years ago too. No one knew, nothing new under the sun with these fellas here.
It feels good to kick off the list with Avatar: Way of Water. I know it has like a lower ranking maybe than some of these other movies, but it just feels refreshing that that's the start, So sometimes it's not all about the, well, in this case it is about the order, but sometimes, you benefit from that last place spot by going first in reverse order.
JT, how many times did you see Avatar with the glasses and everything?
I feel like 2 for Way of Water. Yeah, I think
Only
so.
hit it once.
What about yourself?
Only hit it once, unfortunately.
I think I saw it twice, but bro, my memory was a little hazy.
Oh, you were going The Way of Water for sure.
Yeah, I was drinking water.
Bong water.
I was
drinking bong water for seeing Avatar 2.
The Way of Water. That's what people think we do in our off time.
Yeah.
That's how people think of us.
Yeah. French Dispatch, we'll talk about Wes more, but, look, he's still great. And if you're sick of it, you're sick of it. But I'll say now what I'm going to say about Wes in general lately. The post Isle of Dogs run in particular feels like work that is meant to be judged a decade later as like an Eclipse style box set, like they're more alike than any of his other films have been. And I feel like it's just a very succinct chapter in his life. And now, he's moved on. He has a new cinematographer, Bruno Doublenel. Ugh, I didn't say that right. That's like a Tarantino style mispronunciation there. But maybe he'll, move on to a new chapter. Maybe he won't. But I'm pretty content with my yearly or bi-yearly Wes Anderson movie, aren't you?
Yeah. I saw this with a group of people and I was the only one who liked it, unfortunately. But for a guy like me, maybe that's it's a signal to start liking him even more. You know what I mean? Because he's shaking off that that fantastic Mr. Fox audience. Not to diss that movie or anything like that, but this one's for the real heads, I would say. That's kind of another variation, I guess, of what Eddie said.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Isle of Dogs was the last, I feel like posturing towards something like a little bit more crowd pleasing, and this is definitely more I don't know, him exploring more formal construction stuff feels like something that's going to obviously excite a general audience a lot less. But while I still need to get around to the Phoenician scheme, just saving that for the perfect moment, everything else from this recent era I've really enjoyed because I don't know, it's just the way in which he's having fun with his own mechanics of storytelling just excites me, and I feel like he'll definitely return to something that are more of the bigger sort of large masterpiece. I feel like he has another thing that's a little bit bigger in him, but I'm enjoying what we're getting now. He's a great filmmaker, and I can understand why some people are less interested in this, but it's a fun time in his career.
Number 28 is Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. Now, here's the thing. When I did my list a while back, I identified him as the MVP of the 2020s, Hamaguchi. I stand by that.
I think that's a good call.
Here's the thing. He's a victim of vote splitting here. Our colleagues could not rally around one particular Hamaguchi movie, and none of them got all that many first place votes. I think this one got one second or third place vote, but it's still placed decently high. But Evil Does Not Exist, number 32, did not quite make the cut. I'll say it though, 32. That's really close.
I was saying
if you wanted to walk out the list backwards from 31 to 31's France by Bruno Dumont, 32 Evil Does Not Exist, 33 Janet Planet, 34 La Chimera, 35 The Plains, 36 Red Rocket, 37 Last Summer, and we'll end it there.
I was wondering if you're going to go all.
I'm not going to 40 because that's evil.
That's true.
That's my editorial decision. I thought we were going to do a top 40, and I'm not letting you know what number 40 was going to be. I am not. No, don't. We're not going to guess it because you guys know already. Also, I told you.
Yeah.
So don't guess what it is. But number 40 is so abhorrent to me that I had to cut off the list at 30.
And that's the benefit of creating our own list.
This is my fucking show.
Yeah. And it is, we got 50 slots here, and Hamaguchi's, he's got 3 movies in the top 32.
Yeah.
And MVP, but also I feel like, for what we said at the beginning, there's not a lot of new filmmakers kind of emerging, and there are some, but I guess to the general public, that's a popular opinion. Where are the new filmmakers? And I feel like just the 3 movies he put out this decade. I mean, or the 3 that are on this list rather. Some really great work, and I feel like
2 that's on this list. It did not make the list.
Well, I guess
32 is not the list.
Okay, true.
Technically, it did make the list,
but the greater list. But either way, I'm just saying he's for people who have that complaint. I feel like he's the answer.
Yeah, no, he rules. Number 27. I'm going to hand the mic off to our buddy Nick Newman.
Hi, Extended Clip family. This is Nick Newman, friend of the show. I think it goes without saying that the 2020s have been a very strange decade for cinema. It's one that essentially started 18 months late with the previous year's backlog and has maybe never fully figured itself out from there. So when Eddie asked me to put together a list of the decade favorites, I only had several outstanding subjects. One of them is technically not a movie, or at least opens that interminable debate about formats, mediums, etc. I'm referring to Olivier Assayas's Irma Vep. The second one, which in the words of his own directorial analog, constitutes a film, admittedly a bit long, divided into 8 parts. Irma Vep 2K22 started as perhaps the worst idea Olivier Assayas has ever had. Remake your most beloved film, which starred the most beloved actress of the last, 40 years, who also happens to be your ex-wife. Do so for HBO with the creative input of Sam Levinson and have said beloved actress / ex-wife be replaced by Alicia Vikander, who prior to this I couldn't quite distinguish from Keira Knightley for the number of Toronto International Film Festival premieres she's acted in. I think it's this exact bad idea collision that rocket-fueled Irma Vep, which arrived in the summer of 2022, a moment of crisis for world cinema, on HBO of all places, and proved that its future probably exists somewhere in its past. Irma Vep remakes Irma Vep. It remixes, rather ecstatically, Feuillard's Les Vampires. It tells us that while neither will return, that's all the more reason to keep moving forward. I also don't exaggerate when I say that my jaw dropped upon the reveal of Maggie Cheung, who first appears in repurposed footage from the original Irma Vep, like some Ghost from the Machine, and is incarnated as Jade Lee, the star and ex-wife of stand-in director Renee Vidal's original attempt to capture the iconic serial. So it becomes a story of Assayas's Irma Vep, of his life, and the thing that we, as cinema lovers, lost when Maggie Cheung receded from the public eye. I'm not doing enough to illustrate that Irma Vep is incredible fun, and it's keyed to the thudding practicalities of making films. How? With concerns for insurance, travel, trailers. Why? Or why not? And if you can even do it against the delusions and ahistorical hysterias of those who'd rather destroy than create. Irma Vep is exciting, blasphemous, delirious. It's an hours-long mea culpa. It's a proud stand. It's thorough and tender-hearted and self-lampooning in its self-portrait. It is the rare career capstone of such vitality that it demands its artist only keep moving forward. It's nearly as essential a case of auteurist TV as Twin Peaks. And while it has not received nearly the same amount of cinephile love, it's been sort of tucked away on the shelf, a little not suppressed, but maybe muffled in its effect. I think it will endure well past this decade's decline, and in time people understand it is not only one of the great works of one of our great directors, but one of the great statements we have on cinema and all that it constitutes. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you, Nick Newman, for telling us all about Olivier Assayas's Irma Vep.
Have any of us seen that?
I have. I'm a big fan. It would be something that's fun. There have been 2 ideas for series that I have been holding on to pitch as someday things. And I mean, I feel like I've talked about this on the pod before when Irma Vep came up, because I didn't include it in my list, but thinking now I definitely should have, because I love it as like on its own as an individual series, but obviously it is something like that is largely connected to film history. Assayas's own personal directorial history with having the Irma Vep movie beforehand, and the relationship that all 3, I mean, Les Vampires, all 3 of these projects have together is something that's so fascinating. And I just, I don't know. The series has not gotten enough love.
Yeah, no, I really want to watch it. I did listen to Nick's voicemail. We are recording this without playing them live, of course. And it made me really want to watch it. So I might cue that up. It's on the old Max. You know, you could throw a little Sex in the City, flip it over to, Irma Vep.
That's go back and forth.
Exactly. Another one that you could stream on HBO. I don't know, maybe.
Seems like you could. Possibly.
No, number 26 is Christopher Nolan's Tenet. We had a grand old time watching this one together in my car. That was fun. I've watched this one a couple times since. It's really fun. It's like one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. It's one of his least serious movies, and maybe that's why it's one of his better movies, is because like his self-seriousness just becomes kind of funny. And the action is just so fucking good. I love all of the high concept stuff. The cinematography is great. I love the like mix of different styles of architectural environments and the way he cuts across them through montage. It's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like this one kind of made me rethink Nolan in a sense, because people tack on kind of the fanboy opinion of him, and kind of like, oh, I'm gonna dismiss him, And watching Tenet, it just had just a unique kind of cold style to it that I just found really watchable. And, this didn't make my ballot, but it stands out to me in the 2020s. So I'm glad it made the list here.
JT, anything on Tenet?
Yeah, Tenet was just one I was colder on when we all watched it together. I mean, to be fair, like, drive-in mode, not the most optimal way to view a movie.
Were you in the back seat?
I was in the back seat.
That explains the rating. No.
Yeah, I was watching it between Eddie and Malcolm's heads, just kind of sandwiched on both sides of the frame.
Sea of heads.
I don't know. I'm a tall boy. I can crane my neck effectively.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I've wanted to revisit it. It's definitely like, I feel like this softened my position on Nolan, where I really enjoyed Oppenheimer, and like, I don't know, it sat in the back of my mind as something that I definitely should revisit with fresh eyes.
And now at 25, just half a point ahead with 19 3/4 of a point is The Empty Man by David Pryor. I had the great pleasure of interviewing David Pryor on this podcast like 5 years ago, almost 4 years ago, probably. And it was a delight. And it's my favorite horror movie of the last 10 years. Easy. I really adore The Empty Man. And here to tell us a little more about it is Josh Lewis.
Hello, Extended Clip Gang. Josh here, calling in from Sleazoids. Happy to be contributing to your guys' best films of the decade so far list. And to be briefly here, singing the praises of a film I imagine was higher on my list than it probably was for some others. That is 2020's The Empty Man, directed by longtime friend and collaborator of both David Fincher and the Extended Clip podcast. I'm sure most of your listeners have listened to your conversation with David and are familiar with the frustrating details of its botched theatrical release that was hit very hard by ridiculous post-production deadlines, poor test screenings, a pandemic, and a studio buyout, where his project went from being a Fox title to a Disney one, who ended up dumping it in theaters at the very end of October 2020, when a lot of people still hadn't even returned back to going to the theaters yet. So like many others, I actually didn't catch up with The Empty Man until January 2021, I believe, when the sort of first signs of, reactions and maybe a little bit of a cult following were building. And here I am 5 years later, trying to keep The Empty Man hive alive, because I have rewatched it a number of times over the last half decade, including getting the chance to finally see it in the theater here in Toronto when Adam Naiman, other friend of the show, invited David Pryor into town to screen it, and it was a sold-out crowd. They had a great conversation detailing everything that went wrong with it and everything that's now kind of going right with it and how it's been found again. And I personally am constantly drawn back to it for just really its look and its mood. I think for a lot of people, the basic plot maybe sounds a little too similar to one of the sort of like Blumhouse creepypasta, truth or dare, boogeyman kind of, sort of horror films, and the guy pops out and he kind of gets you. And I think, to credit Pryor, he doesn't entirely lean away from the fact that he's adapting like a pulpy horror comic here, so the movie does have that quality to it. But having worked on David Fincher sets for over a decade, he also managed to clearly pick up on some of the stylish, low-light digital filmmaking trickery that he often deploys, and just the sense of patience and structure. And so his movie about a retired cop looking into disappearing kids at the hands of this empty man really does play almost more like a Kurosawa-esque horror procedural. I think about Pulse a lot when I kind of rewatch this film in particular, and Cure, obviously, if you want to get into the sort of hypnotic mind control portion of this movie that, does sort of rear its head, but it just has a lot of stillness and ambience and alienation, and by the end of the film it makes sense, because you realize that you were never really watching this monster movie. This is nearly 2.5 hours long from it really is more of a sort of hypnotically psychological and existential horror story of this guy realizing that he is an empty husk or a vessel for a more sort of frightening occult cosmic horror reality. So yeah, I really love this movie. I love the sort of 20-minute-ish sort of Snowy Mountain prologue, which is a great horror short all on its own. I love James Badge Dale, who in my mind is a pretty underrated B actor who does some incredible work in this film, being the paralyzed and tormented lead detective who's witnessing all of these creepy and odd sort of cult horror sort of details that he's investigating. And there's just images in this movie that have gotten under my skin more than any other horror film this decade so far. So for anyone who hasn't seen it yet or hasn't revisited it since it was initially generating its first round of sort of cult following reactions, I would highly recommend giving it a go or another go, and I am very glad to have helped it make the extended clip list here. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
Any thoughts on The Empty Man, guys?
This one was really high on my ballot as well. I rank it really highly, and there's just it just struck a very unique mood that, I don't know, since there's a lot of horror movies kind of produced by a lot of the same companies nowadays, and it just had a unique perspective that can, I don't know, can be missing sometimes from mainstream horror fare. And it was a huge misservice how they slaughtered the release of this movie. And I feel like if it could have been if it got in front of some audiences, I feel like people would have responded well to it too. Like, I think it has some mainstream appeal. So we got to keep championing this movie, I think.
Always champion The Empty Man. JT, have you seen it?
No, I still need to get around to it. But I really loved Malcolm's by mentioning horror movies produced by a lot of the same companies, a subtle nod to your ongoing relationship with Jason Blum.
It's true.
And just checking in on Blumhouse. Not even, most of the time, not even with movies that they have produced. Yeah. Just horror movie check-in with Jason Blum. I think one day the podcast will get the two of you in the same room together.
He's going to have to answer for himself.
I kind of see like a Zizek Peterson debate with Malcolm and Jason Blum.
Well, to go on a Blum digression in the middle of this list episode, I did see that he went on a podcast recently to talk about the failure of Megan 2 and I guess like the box office failure. So it seems like he's responsive to some criticism here. He's been hearing the criticism and he's finally starting to respond to it. So and also I hadn't there was that movie like Drop based on like airdropping. It's like they need to just keep making horror movies about the features of a phone, because everyone just loves the phone. Here's a good idea for you, Mr. Jason Blum. Close Friends, the movie. It's about the Instagram Close Friends feature. And sometimes, these influencers, they're not so perfect. It's not so ideal as they make it out to be. So, we don't have to dwell too long on that, but a little idea for Blumhouse.
Look, I'm sure he's always listening to the ideas.
Quick pitch, elevator pitch.
Just a little elevator pitch, it never hurt. After 25 comes number 24. Anybody like that show?
That show? Do I need to say it?
No. Number 24 is The Zone of Interest by Jonathan Glazer. And here to tell us a little bit about that one is Evan from Jokerman.
Hello, extended clip, and thank you for having me. This is Evan, the Jewish one from Jokerman podcast. And I'm very honored to be asked to give some thoughts on the movie Zone of Interest. Sorry in advance, or just sorry right now, for the sound of the Pacific Ocean in the background, or it's pretty loud, I guess. There's a lot of things I can say about Zone of Interest, but basically my feelings about it are I'm very grateful and appreciative of it for many things that it doesn't do. You don't really see any of the actual human wreckage, you just hear it. But what you see in the film is spiritual wreckage. Jonathan Glazer, I think, understands that the true nature of this crime has a spiritual dimension and is a spiritual wound. By showing visually death, a lot of movies sum it up as particular physical conditions. conditions connected to a certain time and a certain place. Jonathan Glazer clearly understands that the film mirrors what's going on today in Gaza. The physical particularities of location and weapons and means are not the subject here. The subject is, how could a person do this to another person? By refusing to show things in this film and forcing the viewer to dwell on and spend time with the people who are perpetrating these crimes, he correctly refocuses the attention, and I think to some degree focuses in cinema for the first time the attention squarely upon the psychopathy that makes all of this possible. By watching and being with these perpetrators and seeing how in many ways they are like you and I, the many ways in which they are subtly relatable, this has to be the focus of a film that takes this subject seriously. And this film has the moral honesty, which is, I would say, to me, the most important quality I associate with Judaism. This film has the moral honesty to really recognize that everyone is vulnerable to losing touch with reality in that way, then and now.
Yeah, I really liked this movie. It's one that stuck with me for a while. I wasn't really familiar with Jonathan Glazer's game, as it were, and I don't know, something about the reception of the movie like had me feeling kind of trepidatious going in. Then I sat down and watched it. I was like, this is good. And then it just like really stuck with me for a long time. I don't think it's like a perfect movie or anything. It's far from perfect, and but I think the ending is incredibly powerful, and it definitely deserves a place in like the 2020s canon, even if it's not one of like my top 10 or whatever.
Yeah, same. This is not one I ranked so highly, but there are aspects of it that do stick with me, and I trust the taste of our ballot submitters. Yeah. So I might have to give it a relook as the decade grows longer.
Yeah. And you can, go scroll through the eventual blog version of this and see everyone's ballot, see who voted for it, See who's saying the wrong things about Israel.
Is that what's going on in the ballots?
I'm just kidding. It's that's like 2-year-old drama now. The Jonathan Glazer.
Oh,
didn't he like denounce the IDF and people were like, "You can't do that, Jonathan."
True. Yeah, I think there was some pro-Israel people looking to kind of recruit him with his movie, thinking that he's got to be. Well, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I don't know about you, man.
While talking about this movie.
No. Both of you guys doing tropes on this episode? Come on.
Tropes? Like TV tropes, like a website?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then that's okay. That's a good website.
Number 23 is EO by Jerzy Skolimowski. Did you watch this one recently?
I did watch it recently. Yeah, and it was, to be honest, I feel like it would have made my ballot. There's a couple of movies I watched, because Eddie gave me the list that we're going to do for the episode, and there was just a couple that I hadn't seen, so I figured I might as well just knock them out. And EO really surprised me. It's I knew it was inspired by the Bresson movie and it had that framework, but I don't know, it just really kind of surprised me in kind of the kind of places it would go, and it really just kind of felt really like I don't know, kind of like anything could happen. Like I love like kind of we're sticking with the donkey, EO himself, and then we have character shifts and kind of just the this is kind of a simple man's thought, but it's just like, damn, modern society is so complicated. Donkey can't just feed on the grass. I feel like most donkeys' lives, they're just in a patch of field for their entire lives, but the modern life and all these economic downturns, this donkey's really getting around. It's really going places. And Skolimowski, I feel like we've done a few of his movies on the podcast. It really made me like, I need to go through this guy's filmography. Like, this guy's a legit name, and I really gotta give his movies a real look because I've enjoyed all that I've seen by him a very large amount.
I got to rewatch this one because I remember not really liking it, but it was one of those nights where I was just in a mood, like I could tell it was just like wrong mood. You go into that movie with the wrong mood, you're not going to like it probably.
I think animal movies are ones that, like, if you're in a bad mood, you're like, fuck this donkey.
Yes,
I don't fucking care if he
Yes.
lives or dies. I don't give a shit about his animal bullshit. He doesn't have real fucking human problems like me. Fuck him. Send him right to the glue factory.
Yeah. Even when he's doing
but
like the crazy donkey vision shit, I'm like, yeah, it's a donkey.
Oh, great.
vision.
Yeah. So I guess now I'm supposed to believe this donkey took LSD.
Yeah.
Whatever.
How trite.
Yeah, and because donkeys have seen psychedelic imagery before that would influence the psychedelics that visualizations that they would have on the drug.
I have to say the robot moment in EO, that's one of the better moments in this short decade so far.
Well, who agrees is Ethan Vespi, who put it number 1 on his list. Let's hear from him.
Hello, Extended Clip. This is Ethan Vespi, and I'm calling in to stump for Jerzy Skolimowski's EO, which I personally consider the best film of the 2020s so far. Now, I consider myself a fan of director Jerzy Skolimowski, but I think my relationship to his filmography was always that I considered 1982's Moonlighting to be his grand masterpiece. And every other film I watched from his body of work never quite measured up. Now, don't get me wrong. I think both Deep End and The Shout are absolutely remarkable films I'd recommend to anyone. But I'd say they never quite haunted me the way 1982's Moonlighting with Jeremy Irons did. That being said, I think Jerzy pulled off the trick again for me with 2022's EO. I remember seeing the film in the IMAX theater at the Downtown Multiplex during that year's Toronto Film Festival. And from basically the opening seconds of the film, knowing that I was watching a seismic masterpiece. Now, I know with the production of the film, Skolimowski made it in kind of fits and starts over a span of a couple of years, in part due to the pandemic. And I think that it shows, but in a truly revelatory way. I'd go as far as to say that the film's tangential structure, while, obviously indebted to the Bresson donkey classic, actually feels at times more like Inland Empire. I mean, Skolimowski's aesthetics for the film, including the best drone shots I've ever seen, are certainly more glossy than Lynch's muddy digital look. But I think the film, when in the middle, it makes time for Isabelle Huppert as a countess of sorts, smashing plates while scolding her fail son. I think you see the film taking a lot of risks with its storytelling, but still risks that all come together. I mean, I'll say the film hit me extra hard as an animal lover, particularly at a time when I began to feel extra attached to my 2 beloved cats. And I think what the film poses regarding animal rights and exploitation, and even what that subject really further says about the much dreaded topic of what it means to be human, or rather alive right now, is pretty important. I know that Woody Allen's film Rifkin's Festival will likely be getting a mention or two on this pod, thanks to at least I know one person, someone who's close to me. And in a way, I think EO honors Mort Rifkin's personal cinematic philosophy. This being that films should strive to ask the big questions. Why are we here? What does it all mean? EO does this all while also going aesthetically and structurally hog wild. So perhaps this film represents the best of both worlds, and that's why it spoke to me so much. Anyway, thanks again for inviting me to do this.
Thank you, Ethan. Number 22, receiving 22 points, Adam Curtis, Can't Get You Out of My Head. Na 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 na.
We all start singing it.
Yeah. We did an episode. We did like an hour and a half long episode on this when it dropped. It was so fun, and it was. Is this the last thing he did in that style before he dropped the voiceover and moved into the new voiceoverless style?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's basically the same thing. It's just mostly without the voiceover.
And he had done voiceoverless stuff before too. Like It Felt Like a Kiss doesn't have voiceover, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like some of the earlier stuff that he has, like when he first started out, either didn't have voiceover or has like a voiceover that's not him.
Yeah. But anyway, it's, it's what do you think? It's a sweeping look at modern history and how we got here, like always, and full of like very vibey montages that clash aesthetic beauty with your on your ears with like either horrific imagery or historically potent imagery that always plays ironically against it. And it's a very narrativized history that a lot of fact checkers might be able to, throw some push pins into, break out the highlighter and the red pen, do some annotations, hold up their finger, do the Adam ruins everything face,
True, that's what would make those movies better for sure.
But the thing is, it's like, why would you watch something that doesn't have a point of view? Like, the guy is obviously just coming from a very personal perspective of how he sees how politics in the world intersect, and that's why he relies on music and pop culture so much, is because like that is what has informed his life, and he knows that that's what informs everyone else's lives. And like, so if he drops fucking on some faraway beach on atrocity footage or whatever, like, you don't have to be a Brian Eno fan to have the crazy cognitive dissonance to put that together. It's just like there for you, and he kind of understands the way to use like pop art. And really, he is a pop artist in a way, in the truest sense, to kind of give his own personal political version of history.
No, yeah, that's what I enjoy about him. I have more information on, popular culture's history rather than history's history, rather. And so like him relating his points to, kind of like that Tupac segment and Can't Get You Out of My Head, it brings it to a place where I understand, and it kind of gives me it helps me understand the other things he's bringing up too. So yeah, I've always enjoyed Adam Curtis, and I gotta make the shift over to Shifty, the narrationless one. I owe it to him because I've enjoyed his movies.
Yeah, to me, that like Can't Get You Out of My Head just feels like the culmination of a lot of stuff he was working towards like beforehand, and it's so like huge, like so long and like epic in scope, going like all over the world. I think it kind of makes sense now that like after doing something so kind of unwieldy, he like is just sort of hyper focusing in on particular locations and particular like points in time that feel like a little bit more fixed than something like this. But I don't know, this is the ultimate, like, I feel like Curtis project for me.
Wow.
In that sense.
High praise from a Curtis fan as big as you. 21, Ephus by Carson Lund. Great movie. What can I say? I was there. James Murphy voice.
Yeah, I feel like, since we know Nate, people are going to accuse us, but hey, we're not the only ones who like this movie. It's getting a lot of
praise. Votes. It got a lot. Look, did Nate vote for it? Sure. Carson did not vote for it. Carson did submit a ballot. He did not vote for it.
Damn, the last honest man left.
Yeah, I think not every. Did every filmmaker put their own film? No, because I think...
Let's call them out.
No. A couple did, though. Which is cool. You're allowed to do that.
I think you should.
Yeah, Ephus is great. What do you want me to say about it? What do you guys like about it?
I just love the structuring of a baseball movie to make it 9 innings. Like, I can't believe I haven't seen that before in a baseball. It's just like, just that idea alone just seems so money. And yeah, it matches the pace of a real life game, and it taps into why people love baseball so much, on just like a level where we got our big contracts, we got our Shohei Ohtani gambling scandals, but this takes it back to the pure essence of just at the ballpark playing for fun, and it really captures that. And I'm proud of Nate for writing it, as someone who's known it, and it's just cool to know someone who made that movie. It's really cool.
Yeah, I again, like, just echoing what has already been said, I feel like the experiential quality of trying to, like, get the feeling of actually watching, like, a game is something that, like, I think, like, a sports movie will hit on at best for, like, a 15-minute, like, sequence maybe. And even then, I feel like that's, like, a long amount of time for a sports film to devote. I just love being in the game for the entirety of the film, and then just also the way in which it, like, allows character to unfold, where no one's ever, like, hyper, like, explaining themselves and, like, what their sort of shtick is. You just gain an understanding for these characters over the time. And then, yeah, I don't know, you two West Coast city slickers may not understand just the slice of life, like, regular East Coast small town living. Even though I'm not a New Englander, it is, I don't know, that did remind me a lot of, like, I don't know, especially the old man, just, like, keeping score. Like, there were so many, like, fucking, like, geezers, like, in my hometown that would just, like, go to, like, just, like, dog shit, like, mostly, like, high school sports events, and be there like it was, like, the most important thing alive. And I know, capturing the flavor of that is great.
Just in general, old people are underutilized in cinema and television, and just the fact that there's there's older guys in this movie. I don't know, just
old guys rule.
There's a reason they made those shirts.
Yeah, those shirts rule.
Those are for young guys to wear.
My little league baseball coach had one of those. That guy was weird. He would always talk about how our moms were hot. I was like, dude, come on, we're 10.
Sounds like a regular, Bad News Bears situation.
Like, yeah, I only drafted him because his mom's hot. I'm like, dude, come on.
I'm not even attracted to women yet. I'm too young.
Yeah, like, we don't get that yet, you know?
Even if we were 12, it'd still be uncomfortable, but I would at least be like, she is really hot. But, like, as a 10-year-old, I'm like, I'd love a sandwich and some juice from her.
Interesting.
Not anything
man,
else.
I'm 30 years old. I'd still love a sandwich and some juice from some women.
Same, yeah.
I think that was the most psychologically sound thing you've ever said, Malcolm. Number 20 is Jajanka's Caught by the Tides, which is a lovely film using footage shot around his last, 8 features over the last 20 years or so, 25 years or so. It is really a remarkable feat of editing, and obviously there is new stuff shot for it, but it is largely an archival film and a work of editing, and to kind of use his relationship with Zhao Tao as a, like, centering device for almost an autobiography where the camera is pointed out instead of at himself is just such a stunning concept. And I think, like, the concept of it, intellectually is, like, one of the coolest things ever. I don't necessarily think it's one of Jajanka's very best movies, like a lot of people do. Yeah. Not a lot of people, but, like, it got a lot of 5 stars when it came out.
It's an opinion that's out there,
and I get it for sure, because I think, like, the concept of it is. However, there's a part of me that's like, I don't know. It's a little, like, I like that it has that nearly schizophrenic style of storytelling where you're just jumping all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very moving, and it's just not quite the ecstatic highs of, Platform, Ashes Pierced White, Mountains Made Apart, etc. Mm-hmm. But it's still great. I had it on my ballot. I don't know why I'm taking this, like, negative tone on it. It's a great movie.
You're being honest.
I'm tamping the flame a little bit. Yeah. I'm like, hey guys, come on, let's be real here.
I guess I feel the same way, but I guess I don't. I guess I haven't seen that opinion as much.
I think it also has calmed down a little since the festival debut. That might have been a little festivalitis.
That's true too. It's definitely one of my favorite movies of this year because I just got to see it this year, so that's how I'm framing it. And yeah, like, I love the concept of, like, this fractured couple over, like, 3 terms of economic strife and how it integrates that. And I didn't know about the archival thing going into it. So I was, like,
you're watching it, you're just like, am I watching Still Life
Well,
again?
I was just like, how did he capture this? Like this feels exactly like from that era.
Yeah,
and,
from Unknown Pleasures.
And like any good filmmaker, he's got a video library that he utilizes. And like all the great film studios did back in the day.
Yeah.
And I just found myself really I tapped into the emotionality of the movie, and I don't know, just felt kind of moved, by that fractured relationship over that time, and and all the dancing stuff at first, and like I still wouldn't rate it. Like I feel like, not to join the tampering parade, I feel like I like his more the ones Ashes Pure as White, Mountains Made Apart. Those rank a little bit higher for me, but I don't know. He doesn't really miss for me, Mr. Jonke. So
if you're like a top 3 to 5 filmmaker of the century, you're allowed to make a quote unquote minor movie. Like your minor movies are still 4 stars minimum. They're still great.
I mean, and also, it is, he made the movie using old there was troubles in this production, right? It being around COVID era. And honestly, one of my favorite COVID depictions, that's not everyone's most favorite thing, seeing COVID depicted on screen, but I feel like it really its modern touches were great. I mean, not to spoil it, but like the ending with like a jogging club, I was really into that for sure.
JT, did you get to see it yet?
No, I haven't. This is one of those cases where, like, with Jajanka in general, I still need to see, like, so much and have not gotten around to it. And I feel like when, like, a huge auteur releases, like, a new thing, I feel like it's sometimes it's just like I'm cutting to the end right away. I feel like I need to do my homework first.
I mean, I get that impulse, and I also get going the other way, but this one is not exactly a great starter. I mean, you've seen
again, from
Still
what you're
Life,
saying,
right?
like, what'd you say?
You've seen Still Life for the podcast, but have you seen any others?
I've seen Pickpocket,
okay,
and I think maybe one other that's escaping me at the moment. With what you're describing, where it's like using a lot of footage that he's shot throughout the years, that does sound like something that I do kind of want to wait a little bit for.
Context, I feel, it definitely helps this movie. Yeah.
Speaking of going to the past, 19 is maybe the best long gap sequel of the 21st century. It's Local Legends Bloodbath by Matt Farley, ? Charles Roxburgh, ? There's a good end credit gag about, or really not just end credit gag, there's a good kind of runner throughout this movie about the directorial credit, as this is kind of just the demented Black Lodge version of Local Legends. That movie that we love so much. We did an episode on it 5 years ago or so, paired it with Ed Wood, and it's just such an inspirational movie about artistry in the 21st century, and it has this runner throughout of the businessman version of Matt Farley telling him to sell more records and stuff, or record things that will sell more. Now that guy's a serial killer, and it is a goofy, like, slasher type movie, obviously, like, using that genre to smuggle in as much comedy as possible. One of the great subversive sequels. Even has conversations about certain great horror sequels. There's like a digression about Halloween 4 that killed me. I've
not seen this one, unfortunately.
Okay.
I need to catch up.
I really love Local Legends Bloodbath. I put this pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a similar thing to Hamaguchi, where it's just like someone who has a great depth of work from this decade already. And so it was hard for me to narrow down, okay, is it going to be this? Is it going to be Magic Spot? But for me, the just, I don't know, subversive quality of Local Legends Bloodbath, just like going back to like this self-mythologizing tale and being like, actually, fuck that. I'm going to rip this up a little bit and like make me like this self-involved like narcissist who everyone around me secretly hates, and just like devolving into me killing my friends and family. It's such a funny like insane twist, and like yeah, I don't know. Just no one's doing it like the Moturn Media gang because they're like even within their like niche like audience, they're going to try and defy expectations that they may have.
And like Hamaguchi and Hong Sang-soo especially, he was a victim of vote splitting. He and Charles Roxburgh, Moturn Media, everything that they released, at least that is out to the public now, I'll say, not Evil Puddle. Nobody voted for that because it's not even like publicly available yet. Every other thing they've made in the 2020s received at least one vote, which is incredible. I have to give it up for them on that. Like, they are the consistency gods of the prolific gods of the 2020s. You know, from Metal Detector Maniac, Hurt You Got Married, Murdered, Local Legends Bloodbath. You know, like there's so many good ones. Boston Johnny got a vote. I believe Nate Fisher voted for Boston Johnny. Maybe I got 2 votes. But anyway, just great decade so far, Matt. Charles, of course.
Yeah, both of them. Metal Detector Maniac, that was the one I put high on my ballot.
Yeah.
Real quick, best Hong of the, or is that, do we have time for that?
I think it's far and away the Novelist's film.
Okay.
The Novelist's film and The Woman Who Ran were the only ones that got like multiple votes, and so they're like in the 40s range. Like they made the extended list, but those are the only Hongs that made it. In Front of Your Face got votes. You voted for Introduction. You're the one person.
I like Introduction a lot.
Introduction's one of his funniest movies.
Yeah, that one
we were
stuck with me.
cracking up when we watched.
Yeah, we also
one.
watched that together.
Yeah,
so maybe that's part of it.
I don't think anyone put. I forget Walk Up. No one put Walk Up.
I haven't seen that
no one
one.
put In Water. But like people put In Front of Your Face, and Woman Who Ran, and Novelist's film. I think By the Stream got a vote too.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, one of the new ones got a vote as well. Yeah.
JT, what do you think?
I would say Novelist film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, to me, it just makes the most sense as like the most like kind of personal, like the element of like Hong inserting himself. Like obviously all of his films are very, very deeply personal and will have like some kind of stand-in characters. But in here, hearing Hong presumably like off screen, like holding the camera, talking to Kim Min Hee, is I don't know, just a powerful, beautiful moment that I've thought about a lot. And I mean, to be fair, I haven't been following up with the Hong releases as religiously as I have in the past. But yeah, I don't know. That to me, there just isn't. I don't know. He hasn't made anything like up to that caliber outside of it.
No, that one really got to me. I put that one at like number 6 on my ballot, or maybe even 5. Yeah, I put that very high on my ballot. I put like the rest of the Hongs in that like 20 to 30 range. Like I think the rest of the Hongs from this decade are all, you know, in between 3.5 and 4. Like they're all really good, and some are pretty great even. But like the Novelist's film is the one from this decade for him that feels like a classic Hong movie, you know, like one of his better movies, not one of his masterpieces, but one of his better movies.
When it's all said and done, that might be up there.
It's up there. It's probably like 7th or so on my rank right now. You know, I've seen almost every Hong, just not the most recent 3 probably. Anyway, let's hear from our friend Claire about number 18.
Hi, this is Claire from the Famous and Beloved newsletter on Substack, and I've been asked by Extended Clip to put together a list of my favorite movies of the 2020s, which I took about 40 seconds to do and easily put Challengers at the top. So I'm going to talk about Challengers. That movie got co-opted by a lot of really annoying people, predominantly children. And I don't really feel the need to acknowledge that too much because it speaks for itself in a way that's really fun. Well, I mean, first of all, I don't like rules. I don't like to be told that my favorite movie of any time period can't be a movie that came out last year. I can't remember having that much fun sitting in a movie theater. I expected to absolutely hate it. I think Luca Guadagnino is not an artist. He doesn't even really like making movies. It's just something he's decent at and is a vehicle for him to get invited to stuff where he meets boys and other people he likes to party with. So that's all fine. But I think half of his movies are kind of bad. Queer was fine. Suspiria is bad. Call Me by Your Name is fine. Bones and All is like the worst movie I've ever seen. And then you're telling me that the anorexic Zendaya Queensy is in a movie with Josh O'Connor, who's ugly, and someone else who I don't even know who's even uglier. That's a real tough sell. But I went anyway, and I loved it. So, I hate everything. That's strike number one in a positive sense. And not only did I love it, I was excited by it. I was excited to see what all of these clowns get up to in the rest of their careers. It made me excited to see this dumbass Tron movie that's coming out because Reznor's doing the music again. He did the music for Challengers. I think that's a great idea. It made me excited to see movies that I wouldn't think that I would like normally. And I exclusively exercise to the Challengers album for the rest of 2024. I listen to it on planes. It raises my blood pressure in a way that I think feels good physiologically. Uh, and I don't know, it's hot. Like, some of my friends complained that there wasn't enough sex in the movie or that it's stilted, or I don't know. That's kind of the point. I found it very satisfying, and I don't really ever want to see Josh O'Connor again unless he's playing a an asshole who has sex. Um, so, this Knives Out business isn't really going to work for me. Uh, Kelly Reichardt movie with the Haim I Can't Stand and Josh O'Connor. Put me to fucking sleep, why don't you? But Challengers is my favorite movie of the 2020s by far, and kind of my favorite movie ever. So don't tell me that I'm not allowed to say that. That's what I've chosen.
Thank you, Claire, for telling us all about Luca Guadagnino's Challengers. This is a movie we talked about on kind of a new release catch-up episode a while back with was it the one with the Beast in Civil War, maybe?
I can't remember.
Yeah, but it was while we were in Philly, while I was in Philly at least. I liked this. This was the first time I really liked a Luca Guadagnino movie. I thought Call Me by Your Name was okay, but I really disliked A Bigger Splash, and I avoided the Suspiria like a plague, and didn't see Bone and All? Bone In?
Bone and All.
Bone In. Yeah, like Bone In Chicken.
Yeah.
Oh, did he do the KFC I Ate the Bones?
I thought it had something to do with chicken. I didn't check that one either. Bones and Rust and Bones or something.
Yeah, no, Challengers was like, to me it felt a little bit like Fincher exploitation, but in the best way possible.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very fun, sexy script, and it's like a very fun, like, I don't know, sports movie. It has some dumb stuff about tennis that even I was like, but whatever, who cares? I'm not a tennis expert. I don't claim to be. And I realized that this is like a movie with young heartthrobs and stuff. They don't need to get all the fucking tennis stuff right. They're aiming this at kids. Not kids, but you know what I mean. At fucking 20-year-olds,
Yeah, younger audience.
20-year-olds are kids to me now.
Yeah.
I'm an old man.
Yeah.
I'm 64 years old.
Yeah, you're Gen X. You're Gen X.
Is that Gen X?
I don't know.
I think I'm a boomer.
Boomer. Yeah, true. I guess I got to check
born in 1963.
Damn. That's sick that the GI grant helped you buy a house. I guess that's more of a 50s thing.
It didn't.
Damn.
I did not go to war.
Oh. Well, that's at least... Well, all right. But with Challenger, I was going to continue the riff. I was like, you know what?
I'm doing the classic UCB model of improv where you say no to things.
Yeah. I was like, let's stop while we're ahead. It's not going to get, funnier than that. Much like I said about Nolan with Tenet, I feel like with Guadagnino, this one kind of softened me up on him where maybe I didn't have the highest opinion of him before. And I enjoyed this, and I honestly, even more so, I liked Queer a lot as well.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
And but this was fun, really high energy. Yeah, and I feel like I liked it for all the aforementioned reasons. And that score, does a good lifting there and keeping that high energy that I mentioned I like so much. And it was fun. It was a fun movie, and I get why it was kind of a small hit in a sense.
And also Sambu Muktiprom, who was a Pitchipong's DP and now shoots all of Luca's stuff. Like, you want that guy shooting some glistening bodies, you're going to get some good results.
Yeah,
that guy knows what he's doing. And yeah, it's just like a fun pop movie. That's all it really is. And like, that's okay because, you know, pop movies are pretty bad these days. So even if Luca Guadagnino hasn't convinced me that he's a good filmmaker yet, he's out of fraud jail for now. You know, and like I've seen his lists and stuff. He's a good cinephile.
He's got cool lists.
He used to be a critic, you know. He has great taste. He put Redacted on his best of the 21st century.
That
list.
had to speak to you in a
That
sense.
is, he had the most extended clip core fucking list ever, dude. He had like Ghosts of Mars, Redacted.
Yeah,
like
that's
I was
crazy.
like, dude is killing it. Like he actually has great taste. And you know what? Maybe he should just make pop movies because, like, if you have good taste, you know what you're doing with that. You don't get lost in the sauce making art movies.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to
That's
contact him.
my career advice from
Yeah,
Mr.
we'll have to
Guadagnino.
contact him. And
I'm
we'll talk
sure
about that.
he would love advice coming from me right
We'll
now,
have to set up a
where we
meeting.
are right now. Undisclosed location, that is. Number 17, Todd Haynes' May December, which I don't know if it was you or someone else put it on their ballot as May September, and that made me laugh really hard.
What was that movie? June August or whatever the fuck it was.
I don't think it was you.
No, I don't think it. But I wish I did. That seems like a. Are we gonna name and shame? Or are we gonna call
No.
okay.
Say what you want about the movie.
Yeah, I love this movie. You know, some days I feel like I'm the biggest champion of this movie.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's not the case, but I don't know. I just thought it's. And maybe this is something people don't like about it, but it's kind of daringness to take such a serious subject matter and just tackle it from such kind of like a warped point of view that's sometimes funny, you know, usually always kind of has an undercurrent of something disturbing, you know, given the subject matter that's going to be there. And I just really bought into the melodrama, and I thought, you know, the three actors in the center just really were set up by Haynes to give really powerful performances. And yeah, I don't know. I'm a big Todd Haynes fan too, you know, that should be said, but
He's one of your guys.
He's one of my guys for sure. And this is definitely one of my favorite movies of the short decade. I think I put it like 4th or 5th or something
You
like that.
definitely had it high on your ballot.
Top 5 for me.
And now, if you're keeping track at home, you know, we were talking about films getting like 18 points early on. This is the first film to get 30 points on the scale. You know, just an update for the statisticians out there. You know who you are.
I'm not. I guess also I am a Haynes fan, but I didn't see that like kids movie.
Wonderstruck?
I didn't see Wonderstruck.
Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called to me, at least.
May December thoughts, JT?
I like it, and
Yeah.
to me, it is very connected to Malcolm for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't think there's necessarily like any content things.
That makes me so
I'm
happy.
Trying to think. Because I'm trying to think
You
of
smoke
what,
weed in it, I guess maybe, but that's
no,
pretty much
that's
it.
not even that. If it was just weed, I say you could attribute it to any of the three of us. But there are some movies that just like I don't know. You have those links.
Yeah.
Like I know a Malcolm movie when I see one. I know an Eddie movie when I see one. I know a JT movie when I see one.
Oh God, I hope so.
That was also one of our famous breakout social media clips where we talked about
Letterboxd.
gambling on
Yeah.
Eddie's rating of May
That was
December.
fun. I liked that movie. I think I probably remember it now being better than how I liked it at the time. At the time, I was into it, but slightly underwhelmed. I just thought it never went into that like overdrive gear. I bet I would like it on rewatch. I love the joke about wanting to be a music supervisor.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the guy who like picks the songs for the movies. Like, to me, that's so funny. That still cracks me up. I think about that all the time.
One thing I think about all the time from this movie, it's at the beginning when they hear that the Natalie Portman character's coming over, and it's just some random guy on the grill being like, you know, I looked her up like on the internet and I saw like her nude pictures. Like she's pretty hot, you know. I don't know why, but you know, Mr. Skin, you know, the reality. It's just good directors know that exists. You know, they're not people maybe don't acknowledge that all the time.
Yeah, good directors are uploading their own clips from their own movies to Mr. Skin.
Going on Mr.
After
going on Mr. Skin for a promo run of your movie. And
Yeah.
we uploaded the nude scenes to the database for you guys to enjoy. But please check out the movie still, though. You know, don't just visit the website.
Number 16 is Wes Anderson's second entry on the list, Asteroid City. Perhaps another victim of vote splitting because the new one got some votes. Henry Sugar didn't get any votes. No sugar
That's
for
a
sugar.
short, isn't it? Well, I guess you explained that it's a compilation.
Yeah, it was re-released as a feature, all of them together, but no one voted for that. I mean, I get it.
I think people don't know that either. I feel like
it's a
that's not-
technicality kind of thing. Definitely a technicality kind of thing. Regardless, the new one got a couple votes. But Asteroid City, I mean, I was just rewatching a little bit of it while I was doing some stuff, unpacking my new room. Like, I just had it on the background, watched a couple scenes, didn't even log it on Letterboxd. That doesn't count. Yeah. But I was just struck by the design. Like, obviously, always the production design's amazing. But as I mentioned in our forthcoming interview with Toby Jones, it's just a fucking Roadrunner cartoon, and it's the most beautiful version of that possible. And as I mentioned earlier, this period of Anderson feels so vacuum sealed. It reminds me, and I've called him the American Truffaut before, and I want to be more particular, it reminds me of Truffaut in the 70s, oddly, because Truffaut's form in the 70s was more mature and not as showy as what Anderson does here. But there's a certain consistency to it, and a consistency to the pathos of the storytelling and the kind of cheeky light humor that obviously Anderson goes way more in on. But I don't know. I just the cinephilic tendencies and the style, obviously, and I just really always think of them as connected. It's like a triangle of like Wes Anderson and Truffaut and Renoir, kind of. Like, I see a lot of Renoir in Anderson's later storytelling as well, and he really does seem to be maneuvering people like chess pieces, and some people think that the emotional core of his movies has gotten like weakened over the years, and I think it's more that he just like isn't as into the melodrama as he used to be. You don't have the scenes like the it's been a tough year, Dad moment in Tenenbaums, which is gut-wrenching, of course, but it's like I feel like he's maturing into something where he doesn't need to rely on those scenes to get to a deeper emotional truth about humanity. And he can just like, people uncharitably are like, oh, he can fuck off and go play in his dollhouse. It's like, you can also like rediscover the world in a dollhouse and like understand how everything works. That's kind of the whole point of his best movie, Grand Budapest Hotel,
Yeah. I just, to me, it kind of feels like, with what you're saying about the emotional aspects of it, I feel like those like grace notes are still there. He's just like less like concerned with like building like the sweeping like uptick towards some larger emotional moment, and just sort of like interspersing little moments of human beauty throughout the movies. And I really like that. I don't know. It's feels very classical, like classic Hollywood in that sense, where they're just like little, just like very genuinely touching moments to me, split throughout.
15 is Drive My Car by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, and here to talk about it is our friend Ryan Swen.
Hello, Eddie, Malcolm, and JT. This is Ryan Swen, member of the Los Angeles Film Critics Association and semi-frequent guest on Extended Clip. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this Best of the 2020s So Far poll, and to send in a voice memo on number 15, if you haven't already announced it yet, Drive My Car by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. I won't spend too much time talking about Drive My Car, which, for the record, is my favorite film of the decade so far by pretty much margin. There are two other films, one of which you've already talked about, and one which is in the very high echelons of this list, that come somewhat close, but for me it's pretty incontestable that Hamaguchi is the director of the decade so far. The fact that he has two, and some may say three, of the very best films of this decade speaks for itself. But I think that even though Drive My Car isn't the most audacious or the most surprising out of left field choice, I think that it is a really rare and extraordinary achievement, one in its approach to adaptation, in its patience, in the sort of paradoxical, open yet ambiguous approach to emotions that really stands out even in his work. With that in mind, I want to turn to a more general discussion of this list at large, which Eddie was so kind to furnish a copy for me in advance. I have a sort of pet theory, I guess, about what you might call signal films, films which in many ways define the decade. Usually there will be fixtures on any truly serious end of decade list, which requires both some level of general consensus regarding its greatness and also a certain pop, a certain sense that this film is providing some sort of genuine innovation that sticks in the mind, that is guaranteed to have a certain longevity at least until the end of the decade comes around. I think the 2000s probably had the most obvious burst of these at the beginning of its decade, with films like Mulholland Drive and In the Mood for Love, E.E. And the 2010s had, in its own way, two films that, while less omnipresent than those films, were still pretty clearly monumental films in their own way. Uncle Boonmee, Who Can Recall His Past Lives, and The Tree of Life. The 2020s, on the other hand, doesn't really have a signal film as far as I can really tell. If this poll was conducted in a general cinephile populace of those with discerning tastes, I do think that Drive My Car would place very highly, but I don't know how well it's likely to do in 5 years' time. There is one film which is to come a little bit higher on this list, which I do think fits that criteria, or at the very least fits the criteria as closely as possible as an enormous critical hit that is also seeing things in a different way. Though without giving too much away, the fact that it placed where it did is perhaps even more of a surprise to me than Drive My Car merely placing within the top 15 under some much more contentious candidates, for lack of a better term. What this lack of signal films means for the decade at large is still unclear, of course, and it's by no means a bad thing to have a wide array of great films, as I do think this decade does have. To not have a figurehead, however, does make things that much harder to identify. It points to a certain atomization of taste, of diversity that threatens to silo off people from each other. I do think that is handy to have these films to rally around, the films that everyone can rally around. What that will be remains to be seen. I hope I'm not repeating anything that the three of you have said or anything from other voice memos, but I look forward to the rest of the discussion. Thank you very much.
And we're back. We all liked Drive My Car, right? We all loved it, even.
I liked it a lot. I feel like I don't remember it. I feel like I need to rewatch it.
Are you more of a Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy head?
Yeah, that one. When those came out that year, I famously said, I like Wheel of
Fortune and Fantasy better,
a little bit better. Yeah. So I think I need to rewatch this one, but images stick in my head, and I do remember enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a film that obviously deserves as much patience as any other Hamaguchi movie, and the driving scenes, obviously, are incredible, but it's more about, the production of a play than it is a road movie or anything like that. And I just find it just like, as a film about communication, deeply moving, and something that I've just thought about thematically even more than images, which is odd because Hamaguchi's imagery is so striking and so easy to remember. Like the first images of this, and like I feel like it's like at daybreak in an apartment with bodies in silhouette, that opening scene, and I just that blue sheen just washing over, and then just obviously those shots of the car and the people doing the table read of the play. Like there are images that stick in my mind, but I feel like with Drive My Car, it was more like experiential, and also just thematic stuff that comes back to me. But like I really just took stock of being in the moment, in that movie more than I often do, because he's not like a slow cinema guy, but his films do require a lot of patience, obviously. Things move a little slower than often, but like there's also a ton of dialogue. But I don't know, there was something about that movie that felt a lot more as I said, experiential than the other Hamaguchi movies even of the decade.
I think it's important to make the distinction between slow cinema and long cinema.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I haven't seen like Happy Hour. You know, that's like supposed to be.
I just really don't like how you hit long. There, long.
That was Cajun Malcolm coming out.
Yeah.
Well, you have to sell a phrase. You can't just, in long cinema. You really have to, make it a bit salacious,
Moving on to number 14. Take it, Will Sloan.
Hello, this is your old friend Will Sloan. I'm here to advocate for Magic Spot by Charlie Roxburgh and Matt Farley. It's the only movie from this decade that I've already watched repeatedly, so I think that must mean it's my favorite. I'm sure that many of your audience have seen it, but if anyone hasn't, it's a gentle comedy about a public access TV star and his narcoleptic cousin who find a magic rock in the woods that grants them the power of time travel. And instead of using it for evil, they use it to save their beloved uncle, who's trapped in a mysterious purgatorial realm called the Beyond. It's made with an all-volunteer cast and crew of friends, family, relatives, and it looks like it cost probably less than $2,000. Magic Spot has the most original screenplay of any American movie I've seen this decade. All the twists and turns and the very funny accumulation of lore and detail. But the plot is really about creating this tapestry of Tussleville, the fictional and very ordinary New England town where the movie is set, as well as all of its denizens who, accumulate as the movie goes on. I've been inspired, as I know the Extended Clip boys have been, by the way that Farley and Roxburgh have made completely independent films with their friends and family that harness so-called amateurishness into a style and a principle. In the last decade, they've been using their work to develop this philosophy of art making, and it's been interesting, kind of like with Hong Sang-soo or other ultra-prolific auteurs. You see threads developing when they become really prolific. In Farley and Roxburgh's movies, they celebrate the local and the flawed and the handmade. They see art making as something that is living and democratic, something that is both the most important thing in the world, but also not something to get too neurotic about. And they preach a sort of gospel of living in the moment while also respecting the past in the correct proportion. And I think Magic Spot is the best articulation of their philosophy yet. And I don't know about you guys, but when Kevin McGee shows up for his climactic song, I always tear up. And that's one of the pleasures of a Farley Roxburgh movie, I find, is that moment you're watching it and you realize that you actually care about these characters and their world. When I think of the movies that have impacted me the most this decade, the ones I think of instantly are Magic Spot and Killers of the Flower Moon. And I don't think it's as simple as saying that Scorsese's movie represents darkness while Magic Spot represents light. I think Killers of the Flower Moon tells us a lot about what America is, while Magic Spot is a vision of what it could and should be.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The other entry on our list from Moturn Media comes in at number 14, and it is Magic Spot. This is it's not my number one Moturn movie, but it is the most beautiful Moturn movie. It is, I think, the most dramatically complete Moturn movie. It is incredibly moving and funny like always, but it's the one that if someone is hesitant to the idea of watching a riff on B horror movies, because I would want to show them River Beast or something like that, and I don't want to get super meta with Local Legends as the intro. Sure, yeah. I feel like Magic Spot now might be my intro, because it's just a really pleasant time too. No one's gonna walk away from Magic Spot being that was deeply unpleasant, I feel like that's fucking impossible.
Yeah,
It is one of the nicest movies there is. And it's all just about uncle magic. And as a proud uncle of 3, I take great pride in that movie.
it touched you at an emotional spot.
It really did. Any final thoughts on the Moturn decade so far?
In my estimation, and I mean this is speaking, I think, strictly to like American cinema, but Moturn Media owns this decade as of now. They're just like hit after hit after hit, and I think growing and evolving their style in fun and challenging ways. Like there are so many movies that they have made in the last few years that we are not even on the list that I think are worthy of mention in like contention for best of the 2020s.
Yeah, absolutely. It just came down to which one you voted for, you know. Anyway, number 13, we're going to pass it over to our friend Kate to talk about definitely the most popular film on the list, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer.
Eddie, JT, Malcolm, thank you for having me on again. And hello to the Extended Clip Extended family. My name is Kate, in case you don't know who I am. And I am here to make my case for why Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is the best film of the 2020s so far. And what I've realized is this is a really fucking hard movie to talk about. After a movie filled with contradictions, seems like everyone's talked it to death. I mean, it made so much money and, became the big hit of the summer of 2023, along with Barbie, a much worse movie, but I won't get into that. Everyone has their takes, their opinions on its moral perspective and everything. And yet, for me, who has seen it 11 times and, has basically breathed in the movie as much as I have, I really find it hard to describe what it's doing because it's such an endlessly complex film, one which, ironically, never chooses to let you form any easy judgments on its characters, which breaks some people's brains, it seems, including James Cameron as recently as a couple days ago. It makes a lot of strong decisions on its perspective. There's a real sense of interiority to it that I don't think Nolan has fully achieved before. And few filmmakers working on that scale do. But for an R-rated 3-hour biopic mostly comprised of people talking, how easily it's able to slip into that really deep emotional well and create that kind of existential terror that you feel at the end of it is just something to behold. And, it furthers Nolan's experiments with time and the edit. I think Jennifer Lame is the perfect collaborator for him. What they achieve in a lot of these montages is honestly unparalleled in that, again, big budget scale. It's just insane to me. And, it's a film I've been thinking about a lot lately, both within the scope of my own life, but also looking around at the world and seeing how things seem to get worse and worse every day. But I don't know, there's a strange comfort to the uncomfortability of this movie. And I think $900 million is proof of that. So yeah, that's my spiel.
That's right. Oppenheimer is indeed a difficult film to talk about. It is one that we did an episode on, and we only got like 30 minutes out of it, oddly, if I remember correctly, which is funny because it's like definitely a film that begs you to go a little deeper than that. But like Tenet, I think it's one of his better movies. It's one of his more mature movies. I almost feel immature for saying that Tenet has more like rewatch value for me, kind of. But I also haven't thrown on Oppenheimer at home, so maybe
Tenet's
I should give it a
lighter
shot.
in a sense.
Tenet's just lighter, you know?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Oppenheimer, I mean, there are sequences in that are definitely the best things he's ever done, like the opening, when he goes full Tree of Life mode during those early montages with some of that, I don't even know what you would call it, astral imagery, like the real science stuff. Like, I'm too dumb to know that shit. The astrophysics IMAX shit. It just looks insane, and I love it. And I love the reckoning of the bomb drop at the rally kind of thing, where it's like in that auditorium listening on the radio, and the world collapses around him. I mean, that's just like the most powerful thing he's ever done, for sure. I really like it, despite I think it's flawed. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think Downey Jr. stinks, honestly. Yeah. But whatever. It doesn't sink the movie or anything. Einstein's a goof. That's hilarious. That's just very funny to me. But that's just like classic dumb guy Nolan. Like that's like Batman Begins or even Dark Knight Rises Nolan, really. Like having Einstein's fucking, what is his wig fall off by the lake or something? Like there's something funny with his hair. I don't know.
You wish Einstein was more tastefully depicted, a little more seriously, a little more buttoned up?
No, I don't wish that. I like how stupid it is.
It's like a Marvel movie cameo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like just being like, oh, no, there's that guy he does the silly pussy eating gesture on the poster.
There's the guy who does the tongue,
the guy who invented eating pussy. With his imagination.
I remember that guy from history class. He invented eating pussy or something. But he's right there. He's talking to Hoppy. That's fucking crazy. But yeah, I don't know. That doesn't, like, calling it the Marvel movie whatever cameo. It doesn't detract from that bit. It just is very funny where it's just like, oh, that guy from history.
Well, it is funny. Like, one thing I like about this movie is, all the different characters. There's a lot of characters in this movie and a lot of historical figures that are not as famous as Einstein. So it's kind of like, it is funny. It's like, well, we got all these big historical figures. It's like, why don't we put in one that people know? Let's get something that captures people's imaginations. And I think it's pulled off as well as something like that could be pulled off, because like there is an aspect where it could go into some strange territories. But I do respect Nolan fulfilling the wish. It's like, people want to see what Oppenheimer and Einstein's discussion. They want to see that. They do, maybe critics are a little less receptive to it, but, ultimately that's why, that's his skill. He is a crowd pleaser.
Also, I want to take back something I said on the Oppenheimer episode. Benny Safdie's performance is hilarious. I thought it was bad. I was taking it too seriously. It's really funny. It's one of the things I think about the most. His accent, his voice is so funny. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, I feel like the big risks he takes in this movie, I feel like ultimately pay off. Nolan, like kind of like
the sex stuff,
and like kind of the scene you described with the bomb, him envisioning that, and I feel like I really got into his pacing, and I made me go visit Interstellar, which I hadn't seen, and I enjoyed a lot. But yeah, I really. This one made me really appreciate his technical ability, which kind of sounds dumb to say because I feel like he's like the most popular director for his technical,
on a technical front. Yeah.
But
I get
that's how we do things around here. That's how we arrive to points.
I still think Interstellar is his best movie, but this one and Tenet are up there.
Yeah, I would say those two.
And none of them are masterpieces, I don't think. But I think like that top three are pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, he's got talent. The
guy's got talent. Look out for this guy. Heard he's gonna adapt some old timey Greek book next.
Then I'm out. That shit's too old for me.
What is this? Fucking Socrates over here.
Keep it like 1600s or later.
Yeah,
for me.
Come on, yes, 16. Yeah, let's get some fucking Jane Austen.
Oh yeah, I would love to see the Nolan Pride and Prejudice adaptation.
Yeah. Anyway, number 12, Malcolm. This is a movie we saw together. Oh. Actually, this is a movie we saw together, very close to this here studio. We saw this at the Porter Ranch AMC. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Ma made the list. I thought it came out in 2019.
That was the Granada Hills Regency.
No, I know.
Do you remember what we saw at the Porter Ranch AMC maybe 3 years ago?
Oh, man.
It's definitely the only movie we've seen together there.
Well, it's also funny.
Other than, did we see Old together there maybe? But it's not Old. So.
Well, it's just funny. I was looking at the list like 45 seconds ago, and I can't remember seeing what's on this list.
It's the Card Counter by Paul Schrader.
Did we see this together?
We did.
I honestly, damn. Okay, cool. For some reason I can't remember that.
You were living in Granada Hills at the time, so this was a pretty close theater.
True. I used to go there a somewhat good amount.
Yeah.
Although it's always crowded. I feel like I would always try to go there and there would be no
new housing
seats.
developments up here in Porter Ranch are insanely big. Also, they're like fancy gated communities, but I like calling them housing developments because like they get pissed off if you say that.
Yeah.
Like if I'm at the In-N-Out in Porter Ranch and I ask a guy like, "Oh, do you live in those new housing developments up there?" He's like, "You mean the gated community?" You know, like
That's a good move.
It's great. I'm gonna start saying project soon. Just because they're all just like, you know, these new things pop. It's for the nouveau, maybe the nouveau rich, maybe just the old time upper middle class. I don't know, but like
we only respect old money on this podcast.
Exactly. No, but it's just like annoying people. You know?
No, totally.
And yeah, they crowd up my freaking strip malls. You know, my little shopping centers. That whole shopping center is brand new though. That used to be nothing when I was growing up.
Yeah, it all seems pretty new, like that Whole Foods and
yeah.
Listeners, go check it out. See, make your own opinion
please
on that.
Stay out of freaking Northridge.
Enjoy LA, but stay out of the valley, man. That's for me.
Let's send it over to Rob Franco to talk about the card counter for a little bit.
Hello, my extended clip brothers. It's your honorary fourth member, Baby Bobby Franco, here to talk about one of my favorite movies of the decade, The Card Counter by Paul Schrader. I love this movie so much. First of all, Oscar Isaac's kind of fallen off since he started doing Star Wars stuff. So this is like a return. It was like his first great performance since Llewyn Davis, I think, off the top of my head anyway. So I love his role in this movie. He's so understated, and you just feel this violence in him that's not necessarily shown on screen until the very end. So I love that about the movie. Minimalist style, really great. Just great writing from Paul Schrader. I love just the whole man in the room thing used in this context of a card player who just sits to pass the time is just, to me, that's what I want in a movie. It's just a guy who's like, he's in permanent limbo in his mind because he's just so fucked up from all the things he's done, and he just decides, I'm just going to sit at a card table. I love that image. Anyway, so enough about the movie. The card counter has inspired me. I think after one of us gets married, we do a extended clip plus Rob bachelor party trip where we go to both Vegas and Abu Ghraib, and we really just let loose. We have a time. Anyway, I love you boys, and God bless.
Yeah, I loved the card counter, and I was kind of like, when making the list, I was kind of like surprised how high it ended up on there for me, just because, I don't know, for some reason, I don't know, I guess there's maybe more grander movies that I had higher on my list, but just something that struck me about this kind of recent Schrader, like post First Reformed, is just kind of, there's just a real nastiness to his movies that just really sticks with me, even in some of the Oh Canada, which is way less popular and not as good as a movie as The Card Counter, but you know, I just respond to kind of, there's like a bitterness, and I think it's so felt in The Card Counter to like the production design and kind of the way the characters talk to each other, and these kind of depressing settings. It's and of course, you know, the gonzo depiction of Abu Ghraib. I was going to say Guantanamo Bay, which is kind of close
Close
right?
enough. Harold and Kumar style, you know.
True, yeah, I got Harold and Kumar on the brain.
We always got freaking Harold and Kumar on the brain on this podcast, man.
But this movie sticks with me. It definitely sticks with me heavy.
JT, any thoughts on the card counter?
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty great. I mean, there are a lot of good, more recent Schrader movies. For me, like, I definitely really, really was into it when I first saw it. I would like to take it for a spin again because I feel like this, and I mean, obviously, because he's doing very similar things in a lot of his movies, they can kind of bleed together. But, like, for a second, like, I don't know, this and Master Gardener had kind of become one movie for a second. So I need to clear that up.
That would be
Dude, do you guys remember the main character of Master Gardener's name?
No, tell us.
Narvel.
Was it Norval?
Narvel Roth.
Oh, cool.
Just one of the best of all times.
I was thinking of a mashup, the Card Counting Gardener.
Card Counting Gardener, yeah.
To be honest, maybe that's what he should have done, you know?
The Master Counter.
Oh.
We'll be right back on Extended Clips.
And after all, a soul selects her own society. But remember, the flip side of that selection closes the valves of one's attention. Now, of course, siloing what is acceptable or not acceptable is a basic construct of many, if not most, symphony orchestras today who see it as their imperial right to curate for the cretins. So, slippery as it is, there is some merit in examining Max's allergy. Can classical music written by a bunch of straight Austro-German church-going white guys exalt us? Individually as well as collectively. And who, may I ask, gets to decide that? You know, what about Beethoven? You into him?
And we're back on Extended Clip for the top 11. Ooh. That's right. We don't subscribe to traditional ranking standards, you know. We think 11 is just as nice of a number as 10. And maybe it's because I really like number 11 and want it to be grouped in with the final group of films, you know?
Well, what's number 11?
Number 11 is Todd Field's Tar.
Oh, yeah.
A movie that I absolutely adore and put very high on my list. And Cate Blanchett's performance is just out of this world. She is like, oh, wow. That scared the shit out of me. Boris, you son of a bitch.
That close up.
Yeah. She is out of this world in that movie. She is like Al Pacino level, like 90s Pacino. She's so over the top. She's such a ham, and it's so funny. But she also has that sense of control that has to be built into her character as someone who is like so devoted to classical music, obviously. It's such a funny contradiction of a character, and it's such a, you know, unpredictably problematic depiction of the post-Me Too mindset. And it just goes in so many different directions that are so humorous, but also has a very clear, like one clear moral arc running through it as well. And that ending, that comeuppance ending, is like some of the funniest, like, tragic irony I've seen at the end of a movie in a long time. And I love Tar. I think it's like one of the 10 best of the decade for sure.
Definitely. No, I put it high up on my ballot. And you know, I feel like a movie with as many ideas and so much stuff going on, like, you know, sometimes those type of movies have like kind of an erratic nature to them, where like this is just so well composed, you know, very well shot, and it just has so many different, like, it's so funny, it's like elusive, and the social commentary just feels so much stronger than a lot of other movies, especially modern movies. Like, I feel like sometimes social commentary in movies can kind of be means to like a cinematic end, and that's okay with me too. But like in this one, it felt just very intelligent, and like I don't know, it hit a lot of boxes for me. And at the middle you have this just huge demanding performance, and I think, you know, it's deserved. It's not quite, you know, you said 90s Pacino. I guess it's more Heat than, what do you call it, Scent of a Woman.
Yeah.
Know? Hey, two good performances, of course.
Great performances, yeah, for very different reasons. JT, are you I'm not going to revisit the phrase I used last time for fans of Tar.
Yes, I am a fan of Tar. There are a few movies on the list, I feel like, and I mean, I think as like critics sometimes, I think the tendency is to, I don't know, kind of shy away from the huge, like, great movies, especially some that are so recent and the praises of them are sung so highly. But there's a lot of just like undeniable, like, masterpieces so far. And I mean, Tar is certainly there for me.
I saw this one during EFIS on a day off. I took the train into Boston from where we were shooting in Douglas. I like had to take an Uber from Douglas to Worcester, and then took the train in Worcester to Boston. And I just like walked around Boston for 6 hours, landed at the AMC eventually, and was like, let's check out Tar. And I had a great time. and I've watched it a couple times since. Great movie. Number 10, movie we've done an episode on, Simon Lang's Days. A parsing down of his style down to a near silent approach here. The nearly dialogueless film that is just purely gestural as a means of longing between two characters. And it is, the film that requires probably the most patience of anything on this list, but is also so plentiful with its rewards. Speaking of silent influences, the use of the music from Limelight in the music box. I mean, it's one of the most touching, really one of the most sentimental moments of Simon Lang's career. And it's just so beautiful. And the way that it kind of connects everything with how Simon Lang's so often dialogueless, slow cinema operates, often in a mold influenced by Chaplin, who you would think would be the opposite. But it is just about how you carry your body on the frame, and really paying such precise, close attention to where the body is in relation to the lens, and how people move and interact. And Simon Lang has parsed that part of Charlie Chaplin down to his style of slow cinema here, and it's a gorgeous film.
I don't remember if it was around the release of this movie. I feel like it was, but maybe it wasn't. But I think Simon Lang said something like, just wanted to make another movie so I could just film Li Kangsheng's face again. And he really takes that to the limit, and not the limit, but I feel like even more so than some of his other movies, one of the main images is just kind of seeing Li Kangsheng just sitting near the window, kind of contemplating. And, I feel like with his very specific format, I don't know, I feel like an actor, even though it's not a traditional acting role, I feel like an actor has to appreciate that, because it kind of gives you, more room for kind of these small kind of gestural acting like you were talking about. And obviously maybe it's not as juicy to some as a Shakespearean soliloquy or whatever, but just as a longtime fan of his, it felt very satisfactory. And I'm kind of where does he go next? That's how parsed down can you go? And I think he'll continue to challenge us in that way.
Yeah,
and I'm excited to see it.
That's the thing this got me thinking of, because I remember obviously Days release and wanting to do an episode on it immediately. But aside from him doing I think some shorter things and another Walker movie in between, then I'm surprised. I guess I just also don't know how long he normally waits in between movies, but I'm surprised this is the only larger offering halfway through.
Next up, number 9 is Albert Serra's Pacifiction, which placed a lot higher than I thought it would. That was a big surprise for me. And here to talk about it for a little bit is our buddy Ty Landis.
Hey fellas, Ty Landis calling in to talk about Albert Serra's 2022 film Pacifiction. Island of Tahiti, French government official De Roller, played by Benoit Magimel, is a calculating man with impeccable manners, capable of dealing with both high society and the locals he frequents in shady joints. De Roller travels around this sun-soaked locale, meeting with various locals, a Navy admiral, various political players, and attempts to pacify the growing unrest on the island due to rumors of nuclear testing and the slow boil of apocalyptic portend that presents itself. Late in the film, De Roller, impeccably dressed in a white suit for 95% of the film, has a long monologue in his car about how politics is like a nightclub. It's a party with the devil, all shadows and allure and danger and strobing lights, spelling out one of the film's major themes as the film, which runs well over 2.5 hours and represents Sarah's longest film, I believe, starts to take a turn from its enveloping paranoia and makes a shift into melancholic resignation. On a second watch, De Roller's smooth-talking High Commissioner character becomes funnier and sadder. In one of the film's more arresting sequences, he's on the back of a jet ski, still in his white suit, taking in the sights of some massive waves from a safe enough distance. Another subtle metaphor for how Sarah effortlessly skirts around the maelstrom of danger and violence for so long. Sarah's production design and cinematography splitting the difference here between impeccably gorgeous and literal hellscape, capturing a liminal space akin to what it feels like getting drunk on a random weeknight, or something far more sinister, the tenor of pure evil. And there's a string of recent films that tap into this sort of obscure geopolitical menace that Pacifiction deals with, while also heavily skewering French colonialism. This is really the first of Serra's films to bypass the art installation feel of his earlier work. Instead, this film is an anti-thriller which hypnotizes with Serra's signature glacial pacing. It's no surprise this film represents his most critically accepted film. All of the art house hallmarks steeped in nothing but bad vibes. Many critics have singled out the last 30 minutes, where on first blush it appears as if the following 2 hours full of cryptic passivity and political maneuvering will pay off in some form of conclusive violence, which never comes. But instead, Sarah doubles down on the film's deep purples and haziness, giving us a penultimate nightclub scene, an all-timer which feels like you're dreaming it as it unfolds, which circles back to DeRoller's self-defeating car monologue, which I already talked about, which he delivers as one of his goons in the passenger seat falls asleep next to him, fully encompassing this film's dreamy, hazy, troubling, nodding off quality, being cemented in the feeling of being able to really do nothing about all of the terror and horror that's inevitable. Pacifiction is now firmly entrenched in the Bad Vibes Hall of Fame and would make a great double bill with Claire Denis' Stars at Noon. Thank you guys for having me on. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Talk soon.
All right. Now, Pacifiction is one that I wanted to rewatch for the occasion of this, but because I have been moving, I haven't really had the chance to watch too many movies. So I have to cop out to getting, quote unquote, the bad experience. I rolled out to see this somewhere. Theater not named because it's not their fault.
Okay.
Just bad experience. Fell asleep.
Yeah.
Doesn't count.
Wasn't in the mood.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't like the movie, and then I consciously fell asleep. But
Yeah.
like, I wasn't in the mood, and I was just like, you know what? Try another day, maybe. You know, it is the first time watching anything by Albert Serra. I'm open to the experience. Definitely want to rewatch it. Plenty of our friends placed it very high on their lists.
I was gonna say, did this place on your list, JT? Did you see this movie, Pacifiction?
No, I haven't seen it. Again, it falls under the file of a long movie that I need to have time to pay attention to.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of like it is 2 hours 45 minutes. So I feel like watching that at home can kind of not be the most attractive option most of the time. But I watched it yesterday just because I was like, wow, this is pretty high on our list. And, I feel like I should watch it out of responsibility. And I share the enthusiasm people have for it. I really did enjoy the movie. I think, to speak to your experience, it definitely grew on me. And I feel like all the time kind of passing by, that the culmination of time is definitely like an effect on this movie. And like, I just love, I don't know, it's kind of the reason I liked Phoenician Scheme. And like, I feel like it's a reoccurring theme in some of these movies. The guy, I guess he's not a businessman, he's a diplomat, but kind of like someone who has to kind of scoot around and try to make deals with people and kind of like convince people of things. And the lead actor, I don't have the name, I'm unprofessional, but he was really good, and he's in like so much of the movie, and he carries a lot of the weight of the movie, and it looks amazing. Like it's one of the best looking movies of the year without a doubt, or the decade without a doubt. And it's kind of a unique pink sheen. I feel like you don't usually get to there's not a lot of movies that I associate with having like a pink look to it, but the Polynesian setting and the beauty of it kind of contrasting with what this diplomat's up to.
Are you sure you're not thinking of the color of the Polynesian sauce at Chick-fil-A?
No, I don't go to Chick-fil-A because they're homophobic, actually.
Oh.
So I wouldn't even know Now I know what the Chick-fil-A sauce looks like. That's like kind of brownish, right?
Yeah, that was a bad digression. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The beauty of the setting kind of contrasted with, the shady dealings of the diplomat. And I love kind of like at first, he kind of seemed somewhat affable, but as things are kind of going his way, but as the meetings kind of get less and less good for him, he kind of shows his true colors. And I feel like because it's sold as a thriller, and most thrillers, they don't move slow, right? Or like they don't, I guess there's the slow burn, but even for a slow burn, this movie would be kind of slower than standard fare. But I think that's what I kind of like about it, is that the thriller aspect of it kind of sneaks up on you in a sense and kind of builds up over time. And yeah, I hadn't seen a Sarah movie before. I feel like he was always a guy I wanted to check out, but I'm like, well, maybe I should check out like someone more well known, or you know what I mean, someone more canon established. Because I'm like, oh, that's like once you graduate from watching all the canon movies, I could watch an Albert Serra movie. But I think a lot of people have said this, but I think people like it. I think this is a good one to jump in on, and if nothing else, you could just look at it and appreciate it. It's definitely like a very, very beautiful movie. And, I would definitely, if we were doing best cinematography of the 2020s, it definitely is top 3 for sure. Like I'm arrested by how this movie looks.
Yeah, I'm certainly very curious. I saw his, I think like 2016 film, The Death of Louis XIV.
Oh, that got a lot of buzz back in the day. Yeah.
With Jean-Pierre Léaud just playing an old-ass dying French king. It was also similarly like slowly paced, but just like gorgeous and also just kind of unpleasant film to just, I don't know, sit through just someone dying.
Next up on the list is number 8, Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, this is a movie that we did an episode on, and I am definitely less hot on than most people. I liked it, though. It's just that, to me, it's kind of minor Scorsese. I don't really like the look of it. I feel like it has that streaming sheen a little bit, even though I saw it in theaters, Yeah. I get a little tired of the lead performances are fine. Like, I like Leo. He's a little too dumb, and it's like a little one note for me,
Yeah.
I like the movie, though. It's still quite good. I kind of rode between 3.5 and 3. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, just because I know if I look at it again, it's by Scorsese. If I look at it again, I'll find stuff to like in it, So I do think it's probably like a really good movie. It's just not one of my favorites of the decade so far. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. It didn't make my list, but yeah, I don't know. I remember our conversation during the episode, and obviously you being a little bit less hot on it, but I don't know, I have been enjoying some of the more suffering based, like later Scorsese movies, like The Irishman. It's hard for me to really like love this, because I just feel like it kind of pales in comparison to The Irishman. Not to say that they're doing the exact same thing, because obviously Flower Moon is like much more racially focused about the crimes of like great American genocide. But yeah, I don't know. They're like just more long and more about like kind of the American suffering there. And it's just like when you're doing like, I guess kind of like an A or B there, I feel like I'm generally going with The Irishman. But I do like, I don't know, I really like the Leo performance. I think him as like an oaf is very fun, and just like as he I think is doing more, I feel like he's pretty good in the oaf range, and especially kind of like a slimy kind of bum. I really like seeing that from him.
Yeah, I think more than anything, maybe the thematics of this kind of stick with me, maybe more so than some of maybe the more fun stuff about movies, like acting and cinematography and story. But I don't know, the attitude it holds and kind of the condemnation it points at feels very powerful. I have to give Scorsese credit for that. And I think maybe there's like some stretches where maybe I'm not feeling it as much, but then there'll be a sequence that kind of gets me back into it. And so I don't think I didn't have it. I think I had it on my ballot. I don't think I had it super high necessarily.
I think you had it as an honorable mention,
Honorable
like as
mention?
a 3/4 of a point,
Okay.
or for you 1.5. Yeah, because I was looking at it, and it's like all of the votes were either in that 11 to 30 honorable mention or top 2. Like people either had it like at the very top of their list or as an honorable mention. Yeah, but it got quite a few votes. Yeah, obviously it made number 8.
I do like this moral responsibility era of Scorsese
For sure.
Yeah.
I just like the other ones of this era. That's the other
And
thing.
you know
is,
what?
like,
I would say the same as well.
That's the other thing is I went in with way too high of expectations because like how can you possibly follow up what he's been doing lately? Like Irishman, Wolf of Wall Street, like these are some of his very best movies in his 50-year career,
I mean, even like something, not to play the rank game. I guess we are playing the rank game. It's a list
I
episode.
always play the rank game.
Like I'd even put like Silence maybe over Killers of the Flower Moon.
Definitely put Silence over it. Yeah, Silence is definitely included in that, harsh moral suffering era of Scorsese that he's in right now, which I love.
No, I respect it a lot because obviously, something like there's obviously a lot of, people out there who would love another Departed. I would love it too, of course.
Sure.
But I do like, he's using his platform, as they say.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a tie.
Ooh.
Number 7/6, both tied at number 6 with 55.5 points. That's right. It was actually really close. Like 8 through 12 were separated by like 3 points, and now we have a tie here for 6. Crimes of the Future by David Cronenberg and Memoria by Apichatpong Weerasethakul. What a pairing, a guy who has been around for quite a while, like Scorsese, just started a little later than him, making a late style classic that we just did an episode on in Cronenberg, and Apichatpong Weerasethakul, who might be the best filmmaker who debuted within the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely up there, if not the best.
I mean, he really snuck in there by the skin of his teeth. Mysterious Object at Noon came out in 2000. I don't think there's a better filmmaker that debuted in the 21st century than Apichatpong, and this like really feels like it could mark a new chapter in his career. And I'm really excited to see what he does next. I was like, it's like the best ammunition for always believing in auteurism, because I was like not skeptical, but again, like Scorsese, Apichatpong, he's on this run where I'm like, how the fuck is he going to keep topping these movies? Like, how are you going to be on the level of Cemetery of Splendor and Uncle Boone Me all the time, and then this one's going to be in South America with Tilda Swinton? Like, that's weird, and Neon's distributing it. Like, these are red flags, and no, of course it's fucking amazing. I mean, Neon dropped the ball. They were
the Road Show, right?
the Road Show. No one's ever gonna see it normal. That was the dumbest thing ever. Put it in theaters. People want to see it. It's Apichatpong. He's like the god of world cinema. You guys have to realize that by now, right? Like, come on. He is literally the god of world cinema. Memoria is an incredible movie that is, like a lot of his movies, a detective movie in multiple ways, where the character is trying to figure something out that is deeply mysterious, both on a logical and spiritual way, or interpersonal way, as well as the viewer trying to figure out just what we're getting at here, and I don't mean that in a condescending way or anything like that. Like, Apichatpong really does kind of give you no context at all and plops you into these things that are technically in media res, because things don't get any faster or slower than they start. He just kind of lets you hang out in his worlds. And the scene in the music studio here where Tilda Swinton is trying to replicate this mysterious sound that she's heard, it has such great attention to like craftsmanship, and in a way that like in older slow cinema movies, we would be like watching a guy saw a log for 20 minutes. And in this one, it's an audio engineer playing around on Pro Tools for 20 minutes with Tilda Swinton. And it's like unbelievably like hypnotizing. And then I think it's that scene where she walks out and walks past the band jamming and takes in that jam, like where we just watch that band play for 5 minutes. Like, I don't know if that's actually the sequence of events or if that's how I mentally connected it, because that's how it is with the picture pong with me. I create my own logic while I'm watching it a lot of the times. And he's just such a special filmmaker, man. And Memoria is one of his classics. I adore the film, and it's Tilda Swinton's best performance for my money. I mean, like Simon Lang before him in the realm of slow cinema, he understands like parsing down performance to gesture, and understanding gesture as its own set of communications. And she understood exactly what he was going for, you know?
Yeah, this one really struck me when I saw it when it came out on the big roadshow extravaganza. And you know, I wish I could revisit it because it has slipped my memory a little bit. You know, it's been a little while since that happened, but I feel like one thing I do remember, and one thing I kind of realized that I feel like applies to a lot of his movies. I feel like he taps into emotions that you don't usually see so strongly depicted in like the palpable sense of confusion in that movie really sticks with me and was kind of, you know, moving in a sense. And I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like, you know, the way he specifically makes his movies kind of has avenues for, you know, we all love sad and happy, right? But these kind of like these kind of different kind of hard to or I guess elusive kind of emotions. I don't know, I feel like I associate that with his movies, and I really want to rewatch this one, but I know it is one of the best of the decade for sure.
I haven't seen it. I'm realizing in the process of doing this, there are too many things that I'm just trying to save for myself.
That's
and
fair.
I don't know. I need to indulge more is what I'm learning. I need to really live it up. Because again, there are things where it's just like with this, where it's just like I don't know. I want it to be just right. But sometimes life, it doesn't work that way. You just got to dive in.
So those two were tied at 55 and a half, and just ahead of those at 56 was City Hall by Fred Wiseman. And we did an episode on this a while back, and joining us on that episode was Sean Glynis, and joining us right now is Sean Glynis.
Hey, this is Sean Glynis from Wiseman Podcast, and my favorite film of the 2020 so far is Frederick Wiseman's City Hall. And I don't say that as sort of just like, of course it is, you know, because I'm a Wiseman head, but it really did come organically to me when I saw City Hall for the first time. It was during COVID, and I just remember this rush of getting this film, the screener for the film, and, you know, being in lockdown and watching, you know, there's, you know, 4 hours to this film, 4.5 hours. And watching like 2.5 hours, and then having to go to sleep and waking up at like 6 a.m. and like not being able to wait to finish the rest, and finishing it and being like, I think this is a masterpiece. But you know, obviously, like you're used to that rush of seeing something new and not wanting to be so hasty to call something a masterpiece. So you know, just be like, you know, this is really great, and then, you know, rewatching it and really just loving it just as much. And as time goes by, revisiting it and being like, oh yeah, I was right on the first watch. This is a masterpiece. And it's funny because it's a honey trap of sorts, which, you know, people were drawn to this idea of this is Wiseman's explicit, you know, this is his liberal utopia. That was the response from liberals, and it's funny watching just his 21st century films. You see so many honey traps like this throughout, whether that's at Berkeley and the student protests and wanting to side with the students or side with the administration, or watching National Gallery and wanting to side with the director of the museum and his vision, or side with this more populist idea, or Monrovia and being like, oh, this is this is Wiseman looking at these lousy Trump voters. All of those reads are commonplace, and they're all wrong. And City Hall is just like such a culmination of so many things in his work. Such a humanist film. It's a comedy. It's a look at much like Hospital, looking at a system that wants to really take care of these people and all of these parts of the city, and just at the end of the day can't. It's also a look at sort of this gap in the ideology of a liberal leader and liberalism and the actual practice that it can't really achieve for various reasons. It's a beautiful film. I think about stuff like the rodent festation scene, which is building on public housing. I think about characters like that all the time. I think about obviously the cannabis project. I think about that all the time, just as this great example of civil discourse, which has also been building since at least the 80s in his project. And I think not only is it building on these things, but I think it's better than almost everything he had done before. And it's just so sharp, and the fact that it's so curious and funny and exploratory for a man who was at the time in his late 80s is just like an unfathomable achievement to me. And yeah, that's my pick, City Hall.
Thank you, Sean. I'm sure whatever you said was very funny and smart and whatever. You ever get sick of this guy?
You know what? No.
No.
He's such a good guy. I just want more. Give me more.
I think I did that last time. I should. People might think I'm actually sick of this guy. I talk to him every day. City Hall. I mean, it's my number one.
Mm-hmm.
It's how an American city operates, and I just think that the use of Mayor Marty as just the buffoon that he is in this, leading the way, is so great, because for the last 10 years, that's all, American government's been. You could say that it's always been like that, whatever, the clowns, the buffoons in Washington,
I've heard of this guys. Yeah.
But like the way that they use new media in particular, it has become very like PR goon heavy, and like gotten even more absurd than we could possibly imagine. Everyone talks about this every day. Obviously the Musk era of the White House was like insane. The Doge era was, we'll always miss it. We'll miss those news stories, about whatever the hell, some ketamine addicted freak decided to slash from a budget today. And it's just like for attention, and then it's just like, yeah, it's not just the like fucking right-wing sickos who want to destroy everybody. It's also like the well-meaning libs, like Mayor Marty just puts on a good face in this, like he's just the well-meaning guy who's going to help everyone out and has good intentions. But Wiseman's distant editing in this, like Wiseman's cold editing in this, just like completely unmasks him, I think. And for a perceptive viewer, I know there's been some arguments over this, the depiction versus endorsement of Marty in this
Went too soft on him,
says our friend of the court, Sean Craig, who's a little too busy now to defend himself, I think, on matters such as these.
I forgot where the criticism came from.
That was our old buddy Sean Craig. He used to hate this movie because of this, but now he's on to bigger and better things, defending the likes of Bleep and Bleep in court. We have to redact it, of course, but regardless, I just love this film as an operation, or like an example of how America operates in a big city setting, and how politics and media perception, these have always been hand in hand, but this is what it looks like in the 2020s.
Yeah.
Or at least how it looked like in the late 2010s, because it was shot then, and it takes a while to come out.
Yeah, no, the editing process,
No,
imagine editing this movie.
Oh my.
4 hours.
There are just some stray scenes that I feel like I think about a lot. Some are the more impactful, like when they have like, it's like guys having like housing inspectors come into their homes and just sort of show how like fucked up and like I can't remember whether it's just like water damage or like there's a live animal like actively destroying their house. But just like that sort of like, yeah, like I don't know what to do, like kind of a thing, like helpless to like receive any sort of like government aid there. Like there's nothing being offered, and just there are more impactful moments like that. They're just very sad. But I mean, I guess this is also kind of just like you get the impact of government bureaucracy. But I think about the dispensary opening up scene, that just sort of meeting a lot. That's just stuck up in there.
Yeah, like his style where he kind of gives you like so much, and like these narratives kind of just naturally emerge, and kind of, you know, contrast that to where like the state of like documentary filmmaking is at today. Like it just feels like such a breath of fresh air. And like, you know, I don't think I've seen that many. I think I've seen like 2 or 3, but I need to watch them because these are some of the best movies of all time. And
yeah,
I just think his style is just so unimpeachable. Like it's just so, that's like when they invented documentaries in the first place, right? Like he's the spitting vision of what they should be, at least, you know what I mean? Like this idea of like the truth or whatever that, like, I don't know, a lot of documentaries like to play with. Like he's like the only honest filmmaker ever.
Yeah, but he also clearly has an agenda with every film. He edits in such a perceptive way, you know, like, but I understand what you mean in terms of his ability to observe people. Like, no one else does.
No, there's plenty of like, you know, I'm not, you know, we just need a news anchor who, you know, doesn't bring up all these politics or whatever. But like, it just, in terms of like you know, the buffet,
what life is really like.
What life is really like, and you know, he gives you so much of it. You know what I mean? He's not holding back. I bet he is. That's the thing. He's shooting so much footage that but you know, he finds a way to, you know, reduce it down to a breezy 4 hours.
Now we're down to the real meaty stuff. Top 4. It's really close between 4 and 3. They're separated by half a point. But number 4 is The Shrouds by David Cronenberg. It's the funniest idea ever also. Just like that as Cronenberg's not final statement, but like this, you know, statement on grief that does have a good deal of finality to it. That is just like, yeah, I'm just going to like look at dead people forever, probably. It reminds me of in Sabbath's Theater, this Roth novel that I had read this year. You know, throughout the book, our lead pervert, Mickey Sabbath, is going and jerking off on his ex-lover's grave after she dies. And then like he finds one of her other lovers there doing the same thing. He's like, what the fuck, dude?
That's crazy.
It's just like, oh, like I'm not the only one who's like this, you know? And so I feel like that was like the character in this, the Cronenberg stand-in, was just like, wait, I'm not the only one who wants to put a camera in his wife's grave. Like I can make a business out of this, you know? And I just love it so much. It's like further detached from genre than Crimes of the Future, which I probably do prefer Crimes of the Future a little bit, but I put both of them in my top 10. I think they're both unbelievable movies. It's a much more personal film, and despite we just did an episode on Crimes where we said how personal it was, this one's somehow even more personal. It's crazy. I mean, like, Diane Kruger's amazing. It's just next level.
You know, an old person kind of being obsessed with death, you know, it makes so much sense. You know, your loved ones are dying, and like I feel like he captures it in such a unique way. You know, there's some people being like, you know, like the way he's kind of remembering his dead wife in a very like sexual way. You know, there's some people that might say that's distasteful, but he's tapping into, you know, aspects of grief that people don't really talk about or really acknowledge. And then you mix that with kind of just this super dark mood and kind of like you know, the modern aspects, like the AI bot thing that he talks to that's actually being controlled by his ex-brother-in-law. And the Guy Pearce performance is amazing.
Is so good
as the cuckold. And
I mean, the fact that Guy Pearce, you know, is getting cucked and just dissolves into, you know, Russo Chinese conspiracies, like that's the American mentality right now. Like we're getting fucked and we're just blaming like China and Russia and shit, like just because we're fucking ourselves, we're cucking ourselves, really.
Yeah. No, I feel like this and Tar, are, in terms of like actual modern commentary, are some of the strongest of the decade, or maybe the two that come to mind. And yeah, and just mixing it all up with like his sensibility and like those nightmares that he has of Diane. There's such like a large array of things going on here, and this Crimes of the Future, The Shrouds, like I enjoy Maps of the Stars and Cosmopolis, like maybe more than anyone else. But so I wasn't expecting him to put out anything bad, obviously, but I don't know. These were even beyond my expectation. These two, like these two are really, I mean, as they're high up on the list, these are like the best films of the decade, and for him to still be doing, I guess that speaks to one of the themes, these old masters, they don't lose it.
I mean, the guy has decade contenders for the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 10s and 20s. Like
all time
10s only for the freaks. Like, sure. Yeah. Only the freaks are putting any of his 2010 stuff on their lists. But like 2000s, I guess no, but 80s, 90s, and 20s. Like he has like strong decade contenders for sure. Which is, there's something to be said about that. The guy is like making some of his best movies right now. JT, any thoughts on The Shrouds?
Yeah. Well, Crimes of the Future took me like a second to warm up to it, or just sort of recalibrate like what I was expecting from him, like expecting him to still be in more of the like heavy genre mode. Like with The Shrouds, I was anticipating something that was going a little bit more art house like it does, and I feel like that's why I instantly sort of loved it and connected with it a little bit more than Crimes of the Future. And I mean, I think just like in terms of like modes of production, it's interesting in terms of like, I don't know, with what we're talking about here about like sort of trends of like old masters still being able to really have it and like bring that weight and like make some very amazing movies that are like here towards the higher end of the list. And I mean, all of these kind of like being about like death and passing at a moment that does feel like particularly bleak is fitting. But also I think just like within the production itself, there's something like so bleak about like this was going to be like a Netflix series by Cronenberg. And not to say that he wouldn't have done like this in a series. Like you could see how like with the plotting of it, I think you just have to pull out like more of the mystery thread to make it go like a little bit longer. But I don't know. It's just like the Scorsese movie that's on here is like an Apple original release too. It's just like it's very perverted and fucked up to see like where I mean, not to say that obviously the production company angle of it has always been the more unpleasant side, but now that it's all just like, oh, okay, well, it's a streaming series by way of like WeWoo TV and it's going online directly, and you have to have like, I don't know, it's just like frustrating because I feel like it also limits like in terms of like mainstream exposure the amount of people that are going to see it, because I feel like conceivably, I mean, with Crimes, I think it played at like some AMCs and whatnot, but I think it's harder for people to like a regular film goer to discover some of the more like off the beaten path things now, because the way they're handing out money to auteurs, it's just like every weird sort of odd and end streaming service. So I feel like you have to be, your nose already has to be to the ground.
Yeah, with The Shrouds, hearing that it was going to be potentially a TV show, I think it could work out, because I feel like one of the things that this reminded me of was Curb Your Enthusiasm. I feel like The Shrouds has a very Curb Your Enthusiasm type vibe to it.
In what way?
It's maybe not even the vibe. It's about a old wealthy man going around dating, doing things.
Yeah, dating and just talking and hanging out with people.
Yeah, having like not much like, he has his responsibilities, but he's not like a worker clocking in 9 to 5. He kind of has like, can approach it at a leisurely pace. So maybe if they made a TV show, maybe they would have leaned into that aspect a little bit more. I don't know.
The next one on our list, number 3, Close Your Eyes by Victor Iris. Malcolm closed his eyes when I said that. That was very funny.
Pretty good gag, right?
It's such a powerful movie, man.
True, I had to close my eyes real quick and just view it again in my head.
This one was also very high on my list. I loved this. This was my favorite movie of 2023, and kind of like easily too. Like I really was taken aback by this. Another quasi-detective story, going back into history to, find out something about an unfinished film and someone who was involved with it. And, for someone who is not exactly a prolific filmmaker, it's just his third fictional feature in a 50-year career. Victor Iris is like, I don't know, when you hear that stat line, you think Terrence Malick, you think someone who is reclusive, right? This is a guy who seems like he is still, like, every moment just living, breathing cinema. Like, this is such a love letter to cinema, but not in a magic of movies way. In a way where he's like, you know what? This has been what I have my whole life. Shout out before I go. Like, that is the final gesture of the movie. Like, closing your eyes at the screen being on. Like, that is, like... I don't know. I find it to be such a playful movie in its plotting, and it has such a deep reverence for the classics, obviously, and the visual aspect is just awesome. I love the way that Iris shoots it. The one scene of the guy at the fucking abandoned soccer field, like that park where he's parked his car and there's these two goalposts and he's just like in this moment of ecstasy stretching his hands out. It's just one of my favorite images of the last 10 years. It's an incredibly moving film, and a deeply elegiac one. And, a lot of these films by older filmmakers on this list are like about death, but I think this is the one that like moved me the most about that. Even if like there's some pretty explicit stuff in The Shrouds, like about death, and a lot of the other late style stuff we've discussed on this so far, but something about that movie just like really hit me in a way, coming off of a few years of quite a bit of family members passing on, like it was a really deep experience for me, and one of my very favorites of the decade. I'm glad that it came in at number 3. JT, you recently watched this one, right?
I recently rewatched it.
Oh, okay.
I saw it. I can't remember when I saw it for the first time. I mean, it hasn't been all that fucking long because this movie has just come out within like like you said, 23 is the official release for it.
But it didn't come out in the US till 24.
I feel like I saw it in like early 24
Yeah.
and then recently rewatched it because I knew it was my number one of the 2020s so far. I mean, I guess like, yeah, I don't know what you're saying, Eddie, about like not being like a magic of cinema sort of like love letter, I think is like kind of perfect, because I think there is like sort of like an embittered like cynicism, especially towards like the industry aspect of like film production there, like the whole like true crime series sort of angle about the disappearance of the friend that happens at the beginning, that like the lead character like turns off at a certain point, I feel like is fitting in terms of like the cynicism about the state of the recorded image now.
It's like the opening image of Fire Walk with Me where he smashes the TV.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think that like in that point, like I love just like the culmination of the movie, like this scheme to be like, oh, okay, well, is this guy gonna remember because of the movie? Is anything gonna happen here? Leaving that ambivalent, I think, is just so beautiful to me, because you can kind of have it both ways in terms of like, oh, well, like there is like the magic sort of cinema there where it's like maybe this does like jog this guy's mind, but in all likelihood it doesn't, and it's just kind of like there's still beauty there. There's still this like reconnection that has happened because of the art of filmmaking, and I think it's one that is like a warm reflection, but I think is like clear-eyed enough that it's not going to I don't know, be like one of the most annoying, just like sort of movie jack off kind of films.
It's no Babylon. You saw it?
Yeah, I did. I kind of feel bad because I definitely enjoy it, but like I feel like all my friends think it's like the best movie ever, and I kind of feel left out. And just remembering like the gambit and the plot, like it is really just interesting, and I really do want to rewatch it. You know, I feel like I'm gonna take a lame cop out and just I feel I was watching it at like AFI Fest, and I think I'd like seen a lot of movies. Like I was getting a little bit of movie fatigue. But even then, I still really liked the movie. I guess I just didn't rate it as highly as like if I rate like just not to go too behind the curtain here, but like if I had it in my top 10 like everyone else, like it's probably our number one on the list.
Well, no, trust me.
Well, I guess
I will break down this top 3 right here. It is crazy how close it's been, and then how not close it's going to be.
Well, I guess it yeah. All right, I can see that.
If you put it first, it
really?
wouldn't have moved at all.
Well, I guess, given the 2 movies on that come next, I guess I could see that though.
Even with your double points, yeah, it wouldn't have changed anything if you put it first.
Put it first twice,
No, still, you would have to put it first 3 times.
Wow.
That is how big of a gap there is here. So, Shrouds, 60.5 points. Close Your Eyes, 61 points. That was real close. Number 2, 138 points. Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Hi, this is Adrian Anderson. I am a director. I made a movie called Pomp and Circumstance. There was an episode about it like a year ago. It's going to be on VOD and all streamers at the end of the summer. And I'm here to talk about Licorice Pizza, which is one of the best movies ever. I think it's Paul Thomas Anderson's best movie for sure. I saw it in theaters like 11, maybe 12 times. And there's so much to talk about with this movie, but what I keep coming back to and what I think about the most when it comes to this movie and what I've taken away from it the most is you never really see any big moments, things that would be obvious to put in a movie. Like, you never see Alana decide to quit her job and pursue acting and then pursue Gary's schemes. You never see Gary move from waterbed huckster to pinball huckster. You never get anything truly like obvious and thematic like that. You only get these little moments, and I think Paul Thomas Anderson's later movies, but especially this one, he works with inference in a way I don't think any other American director trusts their audience to these days. Like, you watch Boogie Nights and you see like a 26-year-old be like, a guy has to shoot himself in the head to advance the plot. And I don't know. It's such a smart and funny script. I love this movie, and I learn so much from it every time I watch it. And I also put Bolt Driver, the Van Alpert, Nick Carosi, FKA Bugmain movie pretty high on my list too, but I guess we're not going to talk about Bolt Driver. So, to 5 more years of movies.
This is my favorite dramatic film of the decade. And when I say dramatic, I mean fiction. City Hall was my number 1. It is fun. It is the most fun I've had at the movies in the last 10 years, probably, with these 2 knuckleheads right here. I mean, the experience, again, like I was saying with Drive My Car, but on the other end of the spectrum, this was like, at least my first viewing it was just like experiential. Like I was just fucking like goofing. I was just geeked. I was just like through the roof. I could barely analyze what was going on. I didn't know how long the movie felt or was. I was like, this movie could have another 2 hours or it could be done right now. And I don't care either way. It's awesome. And it took me a couple viewings to actually like remove myself a little and analyze it. And yeah, it's not like one of my very favorite PTAs, but it has such a warmth to it, and it like really is one of the only films about nostalgia that doesn't feel super corny. And it's because of like the difficulties that the characters run into and their flawed traits as people, and like the difficulty of the times still being portrayed despite it having all this nostalgic warmth to it. Like all the economic fallout coming through the involvement in the Middle East with Nixon. Like, you know, on a small scale, yeah, it ruins his mattress company, but like you have to realize everyone's fucked now, you know, like it's not just your fucking 16-year-old entrepreneurial kind of guy. And I don't know, the bouncing back and forth between him and Alana is what elevates this above any kind of coming of age romantic comedy type movie like this, because despite it being much lighter fare, definitively, it fits right in line with these two-hander psychological minefields he's been doing for a couple decades now. Right in there with The Master and Punch Drunk Love and There Will Be Blood and Phantom Thread. Like, he pays that much attention to those two characters and crafting them and guiding their performances. And the fact that it's like a kid leading his movie for the first time and a girl from a band, and like they're able to hold the weight that usually is reserved for the Daniel Day-Lewis's, the Philip Seymour Hoffmans of the world. Like, great movie.
I think fun is the first word that really comes to mind, just because it does feel so, you know, freewheeling. It does capture, you know, I wasn't there in the 70s, but the way people talk about the 70s, like yeah, it's pretty even-handed. Like it shows, you know, like the freedom that you know, the main character has, and that just it feels like he could, and he does do it. You know, he opens a business. He's like a child actor. Like all the different places he goes at a young age. Like, I don't know, it captured, like, I don't know, just how I felt at a young age and just wanting to do all these things, and, you know, to see someone actually do it. I don't know, it just felt really kind of satisfying in a sense. And, you know, but it was also, you know, it was kind of dangerous, you know what I mean? You know, you might end up going down a hill backwards in a semi truck, you know, and I mean, you might find yourself in that situation. And I just feel like all of the, like, everything, like, to the soundtrack, to like the moment with like Bradley Cooper, like, just like it hits all like these moments in just such a perfect tone for me. And like we say every time we you know, bring up this movie, you know, you can't, you know, we could try, but you can't divorce experience when watching a movie. And we just had so much fun going to see this, kind of sneaking in, like we said before. So I think
we did talk
exactly. So like I was going to be short on, but just like it's impossible to divorce that experience. Like that's also, the movie's amazing on its own, but also just associating the time we had with it. You know, I can't separate it.
JT?
Yeah, I mean, not to overstay my welcome, because I feel like it's a movie we've sung the praises of many, many times over. But yeah, fun, romantic, and just indulging those passions in a very genuine like way with youthful exuberance. And to speak to the experiential part of it, like, I don't know, it's definitely something where so many times, like, looking over in the theater, it was something that I was just like, we're all loving it. Like, it was a moment where it was just like, I knew afterwards when we were going to be talking about the movie, it was just like, oh, we all had the exact same opinion.
Another one I saw and had that experience with, but unfortunately not with Malcolm, only with JT.
It's okay.
Was our number one. So, you know, look, we got up to like, what, 130 points for Licorice Pizza, and it was 156 for our number one, Bertrand Bonello's The Beast, based on a story by Henry James. I just held up a Henry James volume for the audio listeners.
You brought it in special because it's number one on the list.
Yeah, it was just for that. Just
needed
for
a
that.
prop.
Yeah. This is a movie about the way we live today through the guise of the past and the future. I don't know why I'm doing that voice for it, but it sounds
we got to give it the seriousness a number one spot deserves. You know?
It's just such a hilariously dark movie and a perceptive movie, and a movie about longing. And it's funny that it's a movie about Léa Seydoux longing, and it's a bunch of like cinephiles longing for Léa Seydoux for the rest of eternity because of this movie after she longs through 3 time periods. And it's her performance is the best she's ever been. Her range of emotions James, and her ability to depict confusion is so great. I mean, this process of this like AI sludge bath memory wipe thing is just so insane. And I just think like Bonello extracting the most cinematic things of what he read from Henry James and putting them into like a modern context and a futurist context. And he's such a perceptive filmmaker about the current moment and has been for his last few movies. And Coma even got a first place vote, and he's definitely a big extended clip core filmmaker, as you can see by him getting number 1 here, a ton of first place votes. Any thoughts on The Beast? I mean, we did most of an episode on it. We've done 2 half episodes on it already. That's why I'm kind of like, we did an episode where we talked about that and a couple other new releases, and we did a best of the year episode where that was number 1, right?
Yeah, no, we've talked about this movie a lot, but it is great. And I do enjoy that, like, it seems like a lot of people on our ballot, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is undeniable. I got to put this up high. Like, of course, Licorice Pizza got a lot of votes, but I guess, I don't know, I could see maybe a few people, I don't know, they maybe don't like PTA for whatever reason, or they're not into the nostalgia. I don't know. People can find their faults and whatever, but like, I feel like this one's kind of pretty undeniable. And it's just the experience of watching it too, I was definitely enjoying it, but like the places that it went, I was just like, I was kind of floored by it. And by the end, I was all in. And it's funny. I feel like I saw this, just to speak to my experience of seeing it for the first time. I think I had like drove home from Watsonville, and like I just really wanted to see The Beast just because people were talking about it. There was a lot of hype. And I didn't even go home to, put my bag in my room. I just went 5 hours on the road straight into the luxury recliner in the AMC for The Beast.
Which AMC?
Kind of one I don't go to that often. The AMC Burbank 8, the one that's in the mall next to the 16, because it's confusing. I mean, perfect for a Beast viewing, right? Sometimes when it's just about modern problems, just to walk through the mall after seeing the movie, I'm like, damn, this hits a little harder even. Yeah. But I
mean, just the depiction of loneliness in that movie, and Léa Seydoux in that LA house in, what is it, 2012, I guess it's supposed to be 2014.
Oh yeah, the Elliot. I mean, yeah, once he starts reciting Elliot Rodgers' speech, I was like, this is on some other shit here.
Yeah, that sequence, the Elliot Rodgers home invasion.
The whole
the way everything goes all glitchy in the editing, and the 2x2 split screen surveillance setup. I mean, all of the fears of all of these periods and how loneliness prevails through all of them. But also getting the other tastes of fears of these periods is just, it's one of my favorite movies of the decade. I think I had it at like number 4 or something like that. It's way up there for me. I'm very glad that it's number 1. It's a super satisfying number 1 for me.
I think I had it, and I can't remember if I put The Beast number 1 or Licorice Pizza number 1. I'll have to look that up. But those were my top 2.
They're far enough away to where it wouldn't have made a difference.
But I'm glad to see, my top 2 is reflected in the ballot top 2.
All right. JT, any final thoughts on The Beast?
I'll just leave you with this. We have but Bertrand Bonello has cured the male loneliness epidemic. There's one thing that could have saved Elliot Rodger from committing these horrible atrocities, and it is Léa Seydoux.
It's true.
I think maybe not a filmmaker, but a scientist could get in a lab and make a bunch of her.
I think there's something in between. I think Kojima is doing that right now.
I guess. Wait, I thought the movie said that would be bad.
No. Don't think about it like that. It would be sick. It would be sick.
Yeah, who am I to impede on progress? To be honest.
Do you get to do the Beast in Death Stranding too?
we need to hit like Pop Crave to be like, did the Beast just cure male loneliness? Like, we want to get more promo for this movie, and that's how we gotta. I think they just cured male loneliness. Females, you're gonna have to deal with that on your own. But we got male loneliness.
Can't be dropping the females. All right. Thank you to everyone who contributed to this episode, and thanks to all of you for listening. This has been a wonderful experience, an exhausting experience, but a wonderful one nonetheless. You can always email us at extendedclippodcast@gmail.com, and you can visit us on Patreon, where we have an extra episode every single week. It's $5 a month. A lot of people are raising theirs because of inflation. We're still $5 a month.
And we have that, I feel like we don't mention this as often, we got that special $15 a month tier where you get to program a movie for us to watch for a whole episode. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the 15. It's a really good deal.
Also, this is the last thing that is releasing before the premiere of Evil Puddle at the Lumiere in Beverly Hills, Thursday, July 10th. Be there, or don't even be a freaking Los Angeles cinephile. Seriously. Ticket link in description. I'm coming for you.
Now that's promo. I'm buying 2 tickets now.
Goodbye, everybody. Oh, and donate to the Crazy Feeling Kickstarter.
Oh yeah,
still.
yeah, that too. That's still I've been forgetting because it's been so.
It's been 2 days
with our record. Well, I mean, we recorded so much of July before it was actually going.
Oh, that's
but
true.
Now rent is due. I need it actually. Now that it's actually happening. Every day of the 30-day experience is waking up in a cold sweat, being like, "Where's my money?" So please help me out, or else I'll kill myself. I'll leave it at that.
Daddy needs a new pair of not killing himself.
Yeah.
That was kind of borrowing a joke from Dog Park. All right, I said goodbye already.